The Immortal Stranger. Starting as a traveling merchant, this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301 Peer. Human. Jinbyo Martial Arts Hall. With the help of Wang Daoi's divine wind, Zhao Chen flew back to Human from Zhanggai in less than an hour, which also included the time wasted in takeoff and landing. After all, he couldn't just fly away with his magical powers in the downtown area, nor could he land directly back to Jinbyo Martial Arts Hall, right? As soon as he stepped into the backyard of the martial arts hall, Zheng Qingyuan took the initiative to greet him, and behind her, followed the two sisters Gong Yun and Gong Fei, although they were actually the same person. It's just that Gong Fei was wearing men's clothes, and it was obvious that she was playing Zhao Chen before, and she changed back after she found out that the real Zhao Chen had returned. Have you finished the matter in the state government? Zheng Qingyuan still had no expression on her face, but her concern was evident. Not yet. I just came back halfway, because I learned that something might happen in Human. Zhao Chen smiled and replied, then he turned his gaze to Gong Yun and Gong Fei. Not to mention, even now he couldn't tell which one was her real body, and which one was the physical phantom she created with the spell Double Phantom. Is this my future mount? Zhao Chen's eyes gradually became strange. Gong Fei felt a little uncomfortable being looked at by him, frowned and asked, why are you looking at me like that? Is it strange that I'm wearing men's clothes? I'm thinking about how to treat you in the future. After all, your master has already packed you up and sent you to me. Although he thought so in his heart, Zhao Chen said on the surface, I'm just thinking that my reputation may be completely hopeless. Sakura Dragon Fairy Zheng Qingyuan, Breaking Delusion Eyes Gong Yun, Fortune Goddess Gong Fei. Three famous female knights live together in his backyard, and they stay indoors every day. If there are no rumors, there must be something fishy. We sisters are not afraid. Why should you, a grown man, worry about it? Gong Yun sneered at this. In her eyes, reputation and public opinion were not important at all. After a series of tasks from the master, she had no memory of the past, and had already abandoned those things. Even if it weren't for the help of the other members of the 7 heroes of the South Desert, some of her past absurd things would have been spread out long ago. Therefore, when Lu Zhen woke up, he was not surprised that Gong Yun sat directly on Zhao Chen's lap in Qingyuan Tower. He just hated himself for being controlled and not protecting his fifth sister. This is actually a good thing for you, Zheng Qingyuan also said seriously. In this way, outsiders will be sure that you have won the favor of the happy bodhisattva and received the other party's gift, and will not doubt your speed of practice. As for public opinion, at this point, Fairy Yinglang scraped her lips with her fingers and asked back, do you really think you are wronged? Looking at her actions full of connotation, recalling what happened in Heifeng Tower a few days ago, Zhao Chen's heart was moved, then he coughed and changed the subject. Ahem, I came back temporarily this time, because I have something important to say. Then, he briefly talked about the matter of the Flower God sect sending out outer sect deacons to investigate the source of the rumor about Kyung Hua's birth, and finally said, although your suspicion is not high, Gong Yun, we must still prepare early. After all, we don't know what methods the Flower God sect magical cultivator named France has. After hearing this, Zheng Qingyuan pondered for a few seconds, and said carefully, the orthodox practice of the Flower God sect is called the Secret Teachings of the Flower God, which is a wonderful method that directly points to the Shengxuan realm, and can condense the first grade magical power 100 Flowers True Body, which is a simple imitation of the second level true body of the Dangxuan of the 100 Flowers sect. But even so, once this magical power is cultivated, it will have the characteristics of immortality, which will make people desire and get lost in it at first sight. As far as I know, all the external skills of the 100 Flower sect are derived from the secret teachings of the Flower Gods, but they have different focuses and different levels of true body supernatural powers. However, they can all be sublimated into 100 Flowers true body through various methods after Dangxuan. As for which one this France is practicing, it is unknown. Gong Yun's expression became serious. After thinking for a while, she said, maybe I can ask the master about the details of France. But your master has been replaced by me. Zhao Chen muttered in his heart, and on the surface he shook his head and said, I got a piece of information saying that someone has come to deal with France, and it should be within a day or two, but I don't know what form it will take. As soon as he said this, there was a knock on the door outside. It was Alan, the servant who was controlled by Zhao Chen. And what this taxi wizard reported was very simple, saying that an idle man named Tankid sent a letter. Someone is asking about Ning Meng. It seems that he is determined to get her. After opening the letter and taking a few glances at it, Zhao Chen frowned. Ning Meng didn't have much friendship with him, but her master Moqiu was already his own man, and they were now doing business outside with senior brother Feng. If they were attacked, senior brother Feng would also be in danger. Zhao Chen thought about it and immediately entered the Xingcha, passed the information to Moqiu in his own name, and reminded her. Black-Wind Castle. No, because it was captured by Cao Zhao, the purple-bearded King Kong who was ranked 9th on the human outstanding people list not long ago. It has now been renamed Cao Family Castle. Moqiu, who was recuperating in the inn, was practicing the ancient Taoist book that she had exchanged from the master, and her key progress showed signs of improvement, and she had already touched the edge of key perfection. But at this moment, she seemed to have heard something. Her expression suddenly changed, and she stood up abruptly. Someone wants to take Zhao Ning away. Moqiu felt extremely heavy in her heart, but the news sent by Master Chen was clear. This information came from her old friend Tankid, so it was probably not wrong. After a round of inspection, she found that Ning Meng was not in the hotel, so she called the disciples of the martial arts hall and asked, where did Ning Meng go? Senior Sister Ning went to the market. The disciple replied, call her back immediately. Moqiu ordered, also, please invite young Master Feng to come to me. Sitting by the window on the 3rd floor of a restaurant in the human wharf area, Mr. Ling was drinking while examining every traveler through the glass, looking for the mission target given by the Cheyenne treasure mirror. At the same time, Franz Li, who was traveling all the way, got off a steamer. When he was looking around, his eyes suddenly lit up because he saw Duan Mingsu and the beautiful woman in a veil getting off another ship. Facing the woman he had been thinking about day and night, he immediately smiled and was about to walk up to her to chat. But at this moment, a gust of evil wind blew from behind and went straight to his belt. Chapter 302, The Battle of Divine Powers. With Franz's strength, he shouldn't have noticed the enemy's magical power when it was about to hit him, but because most of his energy was focused on Duan Mingsu, and Ling Lao's sword energy magical power itself was a sneak attack, he didn't mean to hurt anyone. So by the time Franz noticed it, it was too late. The magic weapon level belt shattered, and the clothes under him turned into powder in an instant. In an instant, two abnormally white thighs came into the eyes of everyone in the dock area. Whether it was ordinary people, Duan Mingsu who had just got off the boat, or the young man Zhao Fu and the young girl Zhao Royan who had just arrived outside Human City in a carriage, or even Zheng Qingyan who had just discovered the explosion of magical power and quickly flew up the city wall with Zhao Chen, they all clearly saw the bare plane below France. Yes, there was nothing there. France was stunned at first, and then looked at Duan Mingsu, who was full of surprise, and the woman with a veil beside her, and the rage rose up in his heart uncontrollably. With murderous eyes, he looked at the old man who had released the sword energy, and started to flee rapidly. With a roar, green tentacles grew out of his legs, and entangled with the old man. At the same time, he stretched out his right hand, and pulled out a beautifully shaped book from the void. He turned 2 pages, and flicked his wrist. 2 beautiful women appeared out of thin air, and sandwiched him from the left and right. The moves he used in anger were 2 3rd-grade magical powers from the Flower God Sect's Outer Sect Secret Flower Charm Ascension Secret, namely Flower Charm Immortal Body and 100 Flowers Book. Among them, Flower Charm Immortal Body can show a low-quality immortalization state, transforming into a half-human half-plant tentacle monster. And anyone who is pierced by the thorns on its tentacles will fall into a dream of desire and cannot extricate themselves. The 100 Flowers Book is a kind of contract magical power. Once a female cultivator is charmed by a person who can use this magical power, she will become his slave, live in a special space in the 100 Flowers book, and become his property. This magical power is said to have originated from the star god. It was created by a fallen demon god after seeing the star god perform similar magical powers. It has not been long since France became a magical power. At present, there are only 2 female cultivators with magical powers in the 100 Flowers book, one of whom was trained by him after he subdued the other party. The other is a casual cultivator who has only condensed an 8th grade magical power. It is precisely because of his weak background that France dared to attack him. At this time, facing the double teaming of the 2 female cultivators with magical powers in the pursuit of countless tentacles below, Ling Lao cursed the Cheyenne treasure mirror in his heart for being a thief, but he had to unite with the sword and perform his family's Zuanyan Zanpaku sword art. As a sword cultivator, Ling Lao's foundation is based on a Zuanyan sword, which is not only his natal flying sword, but also his foundational magical power, and is ranked 4th. I saw thousands of Zuanyan sword ki burst out suddenly, cutting off all the tentacles that stretched out to him. At the same time, a trace of cold light flashed on the flying sword, breaking the magical shield of a female cultivator on one side like a butcher cutting a cow, splitting it in 2. But at this time, another female cultivator had condensed a lightning spear in her hand and attacked the flying sword transformed by Ling Lao. And those cut off tentacles also grew out of thin air again, extending from all directions. I haven't taken revenge yet. I can't die yet. Seeing such a desperate situation, Ling Lao bit his tongue and broke the desire that arose from staring at the tentacles and was about to use his desperate secret method. But at this moment, a bubble suddenly appeared, suddenly wrapping up France's entire body, and those extended tentacles also with it. Seeing this, Eldling was overjoyed. He endured the lightning spear and controlled the sword light with his seriously injured body. He fled quickly and disappeared into the sky. It was Zenkingayan on the city wall who took action and temporarily suppressed France with the 3rd grade magical power dream of the goddess of beauty. After all, the flower charm immortal body released by France had a great impact on ordinary people. If it was not stopped, ordinary people and low-level monks who witnessed the immortalization would probably all think. Even now, many ordinary people have shown their ugly faces after seeing those tentacles, and even started to attack the people around them. If France was not the deacon of the Flower God sect, and was attacked first, he would have been on the wanted list of the Taoist office for this matter alone. Soon, with a pop, the bubble burst, revealing France who had fully opened the flower charm immortal body. His whole body was green, countless tentacles extended from all parts of his body, and transparent wings grew from his back. Fortunately, at this time, Hao Shangxing, the life-seeking longevity star of the county governor's mansion, who had white hair and a youthful face and a striking forehead, also rushed over. He silently recited the great Merichi Bodhisattva Sutra and forcibly pulled all ordinary people in the dock area into a special state of invisible and inaudible to prevent them from being polluted by seeing things they shouldn't see. Why are you stopping me? Are you in cahoots with that old thief? France looked at the top of the city and questioned in a stern voice. He no longer had the gentle and polite look he had before, but instead had an ominous aura. With the flower charm fairy body showing the state of immortality, his reason seemed to be polluted and eroded. Seeing the question, Zhao Chen, the only one with a Taoist official body, shouted directly, "You have violated the taboo of Daxia. Do you want to be an enemy of the court and my Taoist office?" His voice carried the characteristics of the 5 immortal spiritual key to eliminate alien forces, which immediately made France sober a little. France looked deeply at the 2 supernatural powers on the top of the city, especially Zenkingayan, who had released the Yimu 7 swords. He felt the extreme thunder power in it, and knew that he was no match for them. Then, he glanced unwillingly at Du and Mingsu and the other person on the other side of the boat, who looked disgusted. Then he recovered the 2 female cultivators in the 100 Flowers book, and then took off into the air, and chased in the direction where Ling Lao fled. In this situation, the Daoguan office and the county governor's office would definitely not allow him to enter the city again. Not arresting him directly was already giving face to the Flower God sect. This meant that his purpose of coming to human could not be achieved, and the mission might fail. Not to mention that he had lost face in front of his goddess. And all this was the fault of that old thief. Catch him at all costs and ask the mastermind behind the scenes. As France's figure faded away, the life-seeking birthday star Hao Shangxing also withdrew his supernatural powers, allowing many ordinary people and low-level cultivators who had walked through the gates of hell to regain their senses. After watching the fun, Zhao Chen had a deeper understanding of the mission of the Blessed Land Spirit. The mission of that guy is to pry the ripples of fate, to achieve his own goals. As a monk with magical powers, France was arranged by it throughout the whole process without knowing it. It's really scary. Chapter 303 Aftermath. On top of Human City, Hao Shangxing, the life-seeking longevity star worshipped by the county magistrate's mansion, nodded to Zheng Qingyuan, who had taken back the Yimou 7-branched sword, and said with a smile, "This time, it is thanks to Fairy Zheng's help, otherwise I can't suppress the outer sect deacon of the Flower God sect alone." Zheng Qingyuan didn't pay attention to him first, but deliberately glanced at Zhao Chen beside him, with a look full of seeking praise. After getting the other party's response, he turned back and said expressionlessly, "It's my job, no need to be polite." Although this fairy Yinglang has a strong sense of justice and likes to be chivalrous, this time she took action. It is very likely that the young man beside her wanted to do so. I have always heard that Fairy Zheng fell in love with Lord Bloodsword at first sight. Not only did she help him to the utmost of her ability, but she also gave him the extremely precious picture of joyful Bodhisattva. I used to think that it was a bit exaggerated, or there were other reasons, but now it seems that she is really deeply in love. Thinking of this, Hao Shangxing also wanted to make a good relationship, so he turned to Zhao Chen and said, "Young Master Zhao Chen was not affected by the magical cultivator who showed an immortal posture, and he even rebuked him with righteous words. He is truly a young hero. Since Hangsha is not here, I will report this matter to the county magistrate and ask him to ask Taoist King Guanzi for credit on your behalf." King Guanzi is a magical cultivator from the outer sect of Dunding Xianzang. He is the highest official of the Taoist office in Ganzhou and holds the rank of Jink Doctor, a 5th rank official. "Thank you, Senior Hao." After Zhao Chen thanked the other party politely, he did not talk much about other things, and each of them started to deal with the aftermath. Although France only showed the flower charm fairy body for a few seconds, it also caused a lot of damage. Several ordinary people and low-level monks with slightly higher inspiration had been polluted and eroded. The whole person's expression became dull and dazed, but the body was constantly twitching and shaking. Zhao Chen was reluctant to care about other people, but the boy Zhao Fu and the girl Zhao Ruan who happened to be in this matter were barely acquaintances. Especially the latter. Zhao Chen transplanted false memories for his own selfishness, so he came to Human to seek refuge with Gong Yun, the breaking delusion eye. Seeing the two people who suffered an unexpected disaster and were twitching in the carriage, Zhao Chen naturally could not stand idly by. But he couldn't contact the two people directly for no reason, so after secretly sending a message to Zhuo Hong, the one key sword who quietly followed Zhao Fu, to temporarily protect the foundation of the two, he used the identity of Master to give Gong Yun a task and asked her to bring the two children back to the martial arts hall. After all, Zhao Ruan came all the way to Human just to seek refuge with Gong Yun, who could recognize this old friend's daughter and would not arouse suspicion. Only Duan Mingsu, who had been watching all this, wanted to step forward after Gong Yun appeared, but after hesitating for a while, she felt that the current occasion was not right, so she stopped in the end and planned to visit after she settled down. Moreover, Miss Gong was not her first target. The person she wanted to see most was the green robe young man Li Chengsheng. Sakura Dragon Fairy is worthy of being the daughter of a noble family. I'm afraid that, even if I use all my means, I can only block one or two of the terrifying longsword containing thunder. Duan Mingsu, who had delicate eyebrows and eyes, sighed after seeing the girl on the top of the city with a delicate face, but no expression on her arm leaving with the young man. "You have to be careful. The deacon of the flower god sect named France has mastered the magical power of 100 flowers and may be targeting you." The veiled woman beside Duan Mingsu reminded in a flat voice. "I think you should be careful. After all, his eyes are always on you." Duan Mingsu replied jokingly, "I'm just a puppet." the beautiful woman in the veil emphasized. Duan Mingsu shook her head and said, as far as I know, the 100 Flowers book is not picky about this. As long as you have a spirit, you may be enchanted by him and become a person in his book. In other words, a puppet like you who can move independently and have a soul by chance is a good target. After all, if I fall into his hands, both the Sima family and the Danding Xianzong will ask about it, and he, an outer sect deacon, will definitely not be able to defend himself. But if you are subdued by him, it is unlikely that anyone will step forward. The beautiful woman in the veil had a string of words flashing in her eyes, as if she was thinking. After a long while, she nodded slightly and said, you are right. According to calculations, between you and me, the possibility that he will target me is as high as 90%. Hearing this, Duan Mingsu smiled and said, there is no need to be so nervous. France has revealed his true colors today, and he knows nothing about our methods. Even if he wants to target you, it won't be that easy. Having said that, she paused and said meaningfully, if possible, I don't think it is a bad thing for you to be abducted by him. The methods of the Flower God sect are of great help to the growth of souls like you that are born from dead things. After all, you are not complete without experiencing various desires. The young Zhao Fu suddenly woke up from his dream, and there seemed to be an indescribable charm in his breath. How could I have such a dream? His face was dull, and he covered his head with a quilt in disbelief. Just now, he not only dreamed of Royan, but also dreamed of several beautiful female cultivators he had met before. For many ordinary people, this may just be a normal reaction of a teenager in adolescence, but as a cultivator with a good foundation building inheritance, complete visualization method, and strong soul control ability, it is impossible for him to have such a dream on weekdays. Is there an external evil invasion? That's right. Royan and I seem to have seen a battle of magical powers just now. No. It's the characteristic of immortality. This is true for me. So what about Royan? Zhao Fu, who had read a few words from his ancestor's notebook, reacted immediately and was about to get up and get out of bed. But he only felt a wave of emptiness in his body, his legs and feet softened, and he fell straight to the ground. Boy, if I were you, I would just lie on the bed honestly. At this time, a Western man walked in from outside. He looked at Zhao Fu for a few times and said with a teasing smile, TSK, you were lucky not to have your foundation damaged before. The man was Alan from the Phoenix family. He was ordered by Zhao Chen to bring a medicinal soup to the boy named Zhao to strengthen his body. Where is this? How is the girl with me? Zhao Fu asked hurriedly when he saw someone coming. This is the Golden Art Martial Arts School. The girl Zhao is fine, but her body is weaker than yours. She needs further conditioning. Well, it was the mistress who saved you, Alan said casually, after handing the medicine to Zhao Fu. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304 Nightmare. Jinbio Martial Arts School? Zhao Fu was bewildered. He was from Shanzhou and was not familiar with Ganzhou. Although he had bought magazines such as Ganzhou Chronicles when passing through some towns, he only knew about some forces with supernatural powers. He was still a little confused and had no idea that he had heard of the name Jinbio Martial Arts School when he was trying to find out about Gong Yun. Zhao Fu picked up the medicine bowl and checked it. He felt a strong fragrance in his nose, and his blood vessels were dilated, his meridians were activated, and even his body and mind, which were seriously deficient, felt a little more comfortable. Thank you for the medicine, Zhao Fu said sincerely, and then drank the soup in the bowl without any doubt. As soon as the soup entered his throat, a stream of heat flowed into various organs. The weakness of the body, the loss of kidney qi, and the discomfort of the waist and legs were like the first snow meeting the scorching sun, and they quickly melted away. Even if this is not as good as the 3-turn Puan pill of Danding Xianzang, it is better than the ordinary fine kidney qi pill. What is the origin of this martial arts hall? What a big deal. Zhao Fu was secretly surprised. If you want to thank someone, thank the mistress. Alan watched him drink the medicine, and then nodded and said, you are lucky. you should know that there is a little dragon meat in it. If it weren't for your weak body, the vitality it contains would be enough for you to open several related acupoints of the nasal orifice. After that, he took out a pair of pants from somewhere and handed it to the other party, smiling and saying, "You can't keep the original one. I believe you know the reason. Change into this one." Zhao Fu realized that he was cold down there and he was actually naked. His cheeks flushed immediately. He didn't know whether it was because of shame or the effect of the medicine. Anyway, he quickly picked up the pants and put them on. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel a little fortunate. Fortunately, he was weak just now. Otherwise wouldn't he have to meet Royan in this posture? That would be a real disaster. Boy, although you are lucky enough not to be injured this time, and you have the medicinal soup made from dragon meat to nourish you, you still need at least 1 or 2 weeks to recover. During this period, try to be pure and abstain from desires, and don't get close to women. Looking at the embarrassed Zhao Fu, Alan deliberately reminded him he was not a good person. After being subdued by Zhao Chen, he had to suppress his nature. It was rare to have fun, so he would not let it go. I know, Zhao Fu replied in a low voice after getting dressed. Then, perhaps wanting to divert this embarrassing topic, he asked, "Who is the master of your house? What is the name of the mistress?" "My master's name is Zhao Chen, and he has the title of Blood Sword Young Master. As for the mistress, which one are you asking about?" Alan asked back with a strange look on his face. Zhao Chen, this name sounds familiar. Zhao Fu couldn't remember where he had heard it for a while, so he had to respond first. "The one who saved me and Miss Zhao. It was the Sakura dragon fairy who drove away the flower god sect's magical power that showed the characteristics of immortality at the dock, and it was the eye that breaks delusion that brought you back. These 2 mistresses should be your benefactors," Alan said after thinking for a while. Sakura dragon fairy Zenkingan. Breaking delusion eyes Gongyun. It turned out to be that Zhao Chen. Zhao Fu's face showed a look of realization. Since Zhao Royan came to Human to seek refuge with the heroine Gongyun, she would naturally inquire about the other party's news along the way. And the name Zhao Chen always appears together with breaking delusion eyes in recent times. Although Zhao Royan and Gongyun were very skeptical about the authenticity of the rumors at the beginning, judging from the current situation, could it be true? Wait. If the rumors are true, then Zhao Chen is a playboy, wouldn't Royan be also? Just when Zhao Fu was worried about gains and losses, Zhao Chen was also discussing with Gongyun about the girl Zhao Royan. The blood sword that this girl's father asked her to find before he died may be related to the cloud crown in your mission, so I implanted false memories in her and asked her to come to Human to seek refuge with you. Since all the connections with the little black cat at the level of destiny had been handed over to him by the spirit of Cheyenne Blessed Land, Zhao Chen still trusted Gongyun and did not hide what he had done in Big Market. So that's how it is. This girl actually has clues about one of the 3 cloud crowns. I was wondering why the master would issue a task for no reason. After listening to Zhao Chen's story, Gongyun suddenly realized, and no longer wondered, why the master did not give a reward for this task, because it was originally part of the previous task of finding the cloud crown. Of course, in reality, Zhao Chen is not as rich as the spirit of Blessed Land, who can steal some of the treasures in the Li family's dead accounts at any time. As far as I know, the real name of the blood god sword is Zheng Zhao, a reincarnated real person. This Miss Zhao is very likely to have a close connection with him. And with this kind of fate level of attraction, sooner or later I will meet him. Zhao Chen stroked a jade slip in his hand. It was an item that Qinsheng, the leader of the blood god sect, gave to him in the worry-free cave heaven, and asked him to pass it on to Zheng Zhao, the blood god sword. Although it was later confirmed that Qinsheng was Fei Meng's clone from the beginning, this commission was personally issued by Qin Yap, the real person behind the blood god sect, so he still had to actively complete it so that he could have an explanation when he entered the cave heaven next time. What's more, he was also thinking of taking that real person out of the cave heaven and letting him follow him into the historical mist to become a thug during special missions. I just don't know when this little girl will wake up. Gongyun sighed and looked at Zhao Royan, who was still lying on the bed. This girl must have witnessed some terrible things, so after being contaminated by the unknown true body magical power of the Flower God sect, she fell into a nightmare and couldn't get out. Although we helped her stabilize her foundation in time, if it continues like this, she won't be able to survive for long. Now, either we have to pray that she will overcome the nightmare as soon as possible and wake up on her own, or we have to find a cultivator who is good at dream magic to bring her out of the nightmare constructed by the pollution. Dream magic? I don't know if the illusionary dream night curse and the 12 methods of heart light will work, but this spell is better at constructing dreams rather than entering other people's dreams. And dreams contaminated by the immortalization feature, I'm afraid it will take dream type magical powers to have hope of interfering. Zhao Chen also frowned. As far as he knew, there were very few cultivators in Ganzhou who were good at dream type magical powers, and they were only of the 5th or 6th rank, so they might not succeed. Besides the monks with magical powers, there might be another person who can do it. That is Ma Leo. As a former Dangshan Zenran, he is very good at dreams as he practices the way of the devil. Lu Zhen fell into a dream before and was captured by it. Chapter 305 Sound Power. Or it's because this girl is born with too high inspiration. The pollution of other people is not so serious. Gong Yun sighed and said thoughtfully, if you want to attract Ma Guangliang, there is actually a way. It's just that it's probably difficult to catch him. What method? Zhao Chen asked curiously. My second brother is arrogant and wants to upgrade his supernatural power with the demon position, but his ceremony currently lacks my laziness and the lust of the 7th sister. We can make some efforts in these two aspects, Gong Yun said with a smile. She knew that the 7th sister Snow Eagle Sword Feng Wan was currently in Zhao Chen's hands. It's difficult for Feng Wan to return to the arena in a short time. Zhao Chen shook his head. After all, the female hero was fatally injured. If there was no top-notch healing supernatural power, she would probably die the moment she was redeemed. But the laziness seed planted by Ma Guangliang in my body is also a good bargaining chip. Maybe I can use this to talk to him, Gong Yun insisted. On the one hand, it was to help the little girl named Zhao Royan get rid of the nightmare, and on the other hand, it was also to lure out Ma Guangliang and covet the other young Xiao crown in his hand to complete the task. It's possible. Zhao Chen thought about it for a while and agreed with the other party's idea, but how can I contact him? Don't worry, he must have been watching me. As long as I spread the word, he will definitely come to me on his own initiative. Gong Yun believed it without a doubt. After all, they have been brothers and sisters for many years. Even if Ma Guangliang has been hiding himself, some of his temper cannot be concealed no matter what, and it is most appropriate for the 6th brother to spread the word. Gong Yun added. Young Master Green Robe Li Changsheng has a wide range of social contacts and many friends in the martial arts world, which makes it very convenient for him to gather intelligence or spread news. Zhao Chen nodded slightly, tacitly agreeing with Gong Yun's plan, then looked at the sleeping Zhao Royan and said, in fact, it would be best if she could defeat her own inner demons and wake up from the nightmare on her own. It's a pity that my 5 immortal spiritual key can't penetrate into the soul and cleanse the dream, otherwise this pollution would not be difficult to remove. Gong Yun nodded in agreement and said, I heard that in the past, when the Taoist master Taichu played the piano, even the Taoists who were completely immortalized could return to being human, and the ancestor of the Xianyang city lineage, the true Lord Baranami, is also good at music. Under his divine sound, all external evils cannot invade. If you want to better exert the magic of the 5 immortal spiritual key, you should find an art-related skill as a secondary practice. Well, it's best to practice music. In fact, in the chapter of natural divine creation of Brahma sound without pride in music, there are 2 music-based Gangsha spells in the true scripture of the 5 kiss and 100 gods in the Gangsha stage, namely the soul-captivating song of the Wuang and the music of Yuan Sheng's form. The combination of the 2 is another top-grade magical power of the Xianyang city lineage besides the 5 emperors paying homage to the truth, the divine sound of Baranami. It's just that these 2 spells can only be created by combining the luck position with the exercises, or by looking for their corresponding Ganki and Shaki after the Gangsha is successful. Unlike most other spells, even if they are not condensed into their original lives, they can be barely cultivated to the level of one turn with the help of other means. Far water cannot quench a nearby fire. As his thoughts turned, Zhao Chen looked at the little black cat who was not sure what he was thinking about, and asked, "Do you have any recommendations?" "I don't have any." Gong Yun shook her head, then changed the subject and said, "But as far as I know, when it comes to sound skills, the best in the world is Langaya Divine Soundbar. Langaya's huge. In addition, the many sound skills evolved by the royal family from Buddhist skills also have their own mysteries. Human County City, in the county magistrate's mansion. After the riot at the dock, Duan Mingsu and the beautiful woman in the veil were invited to the county magistrate's mansion by life-calling longevity star Hao Shangxing and Sakura dragon fairy Zheng Qingyan. After all, as a cultivator with magical powers, it was okay before she was exposed. Once her whereabouts were revealed, she would naturally be taken seriously by the authorities. And the reason why she was exposed was because of her special performance under France's Immortal posture. Of course, this had nothing to do with Zheng Qingyan, but how Shangxing wanted to use her strength to suppress these two strange supernatural powers from Liang Zhao, and Zhao Chen also wanted to know the plans of this childhood sweetheart of Ma Guangming, so Qingyan agreed to Hao Shangxing's invitation. "I have no intention of causing trouble in Human County City. I just want to find a few knights in the 7 heroes of the South Desert to inquire about the changes that happened to the Sun Sword." Duan Mingsu directly stated the purpose of his visit. The 7 heroes of the South Desert. There should be only the 5th hero Gong Yun and the 6th hero Li Changsheng in the city at present. I can call the Changsheng boy of the Li family for the fairy right now, but that Gong lady, Hao Shangxing said here, and looked at Zheng Qingyan not far away. It is rumored that the two sisters Gong Yun and Gong Fei both live in the backyard of the Golden Art Martial Arts Hall, and it is unknown how the Sakura Dragon Fairy views them. Sister Gong is still a little concerned about her health, and is not suitable for going out. If you have anything to ask her, please ask Fairy Duan to move to the Golden Art Martial Arts Hall. Zheng Qingyan said lightly. Sister. You call someone who is 7 or 8 years older than you your sister? Is this based on the order of entering the door? Hao Shangxing couldn't help but secretly praise the blood sword man for his ability. Then I'll trouble brother how to call Mr. Li over first. In addition, I will go to the Golden Art Martial Arts Hall to pay a formal visit later. Duan Mingsu nodded and agreed easily. While sending someone to invite Li Changsheng, Hao Shangxing took the time to ask, I wonder if Fairy Duan and the previous Flower God Sect Deacon are acquaintances? No. I only met him once on the train. Duan Mingsu shook her head, unwilling to say more. You can't say that the other party wants to confuse her puppet and recruit it as a member of the 100 Flowers book, right? Kyoji Abeo, in the hotel. As soon as Ning Meng came back, she saw her master looking at her seriously, and she couldn't help but argue with a guilty conscience. Master, I didn't spend money indiscriminately. Seeing this, Moqiu was both angry and amused, but he still restrained his emotions and said solemnly, I got the news that a group of thieves have targeted us. No, to be more precise, they have targeted you. Targeted me? What's there for me to target? Even if it's for beauty, they should target you, Master. Ning Meng widened her blood red eyes and said puzzledly, don't be so funny. Moqiu sighed slightly and said, I guess it may be related to your life experience. Life experience? Wasn't I picked up by you, Master? Ning Meng asked puzzledly. I did pick you up, but there are actually some things I haven't told you all these years. The identity of your parents is probably not that simple. I'm late because of writer's block. The second update today will be postponed. I owe 2 updates at the moment. Chapter 306 Ning Meng's background. What's so difficult about it? It was the first time that Ning Meng heard her master talk about her life experience. Even though she was a little naive, she was a little nervous. Moqiu sighed slightly, and while recalling the long-lost memory, he organized his sentences and said, I remember that it was a blood moon night that rarely appeared in Daxia. A group of mysterious people attacked a village near Human. No, to be precise, their target was a young couple living in the village. In this couple, the husband is from Daxia, and the wife is a Taxi person with silver hair and red eyes like you. The couple are both masters. The aftermath of their battle with the mysterious people destroyed the entire village, and only a few people escaped. And I came to the village the day after the battle, and found you, who were only 3 or 4 years old at the time, in a well in the ruins. I didn't have much knowledge before, and I didn't know what level of power that was, but now I think that your mother and the leader of the mysterious people are probably top-notch cultivators in the Gangsha realm, and they may even have supernatural powers. Ning Meng was stunned for a long time, and then seemed to think of something, and asked curiously, Master, since you didn't arrive until the next day, how did you know what happened on the night of the blood moon? Moqiu was silent for a few seconds, and said in an erratic tone, this is my biggest secret, Master, but it doesn't matter to tell you now. The elixir I used to open my eyes came from a demon, which gave me a magical power, which is the ability to share the vision of my loved ones. That night, it was also when I first opened my eyes and gained this ability. I shared my father's vision at the time. He was one of the few survivors in that village. Master's father. It turns out that the master has always known who her father is, but why didn't the master come to see the master? Or did he come, but I don't know? As her thoughts turned, Ning Meng was tactful enough not to delve into the issue, but said thoughtfully, so, you suspect that the person who is targeting me this time is the mysterious man who attacked my parents? It is very likely. Moqiu nodded and said, of course, we cannot rule out that your mother sent someone to find you. Although the possibility is very low. If they really wanted to find you, they should have come a long time ago. After all, Moqiu herself was only a little girl of 14 or 15 years old 10 years ago. She was not so experienced in dealing with things. It is not difficult to find out that she took Ning Meng away and accepted her as a disciple, as long as one is willing. Ning Meng curled her lips, obviously thinking of this. She directly skipped this possibility and asked, Master, you only said that it might be my mother who sent someone, and did not mention my father. Is it because he has passed away? That's right. When the Taoist office collected the bodies, they found most of your father's body, and the conclusion about your mother is missing. That's what I later asked my father's sworn brother to find out. Moqiu touched his apprentice's head and continued, because your mother's registered name in that village was Lemon Ning, I gave you the name Ning Meng. Lemon Ning. That is to say, she was either caught by that mysterious group of people, or she escaped. Ning Meng muttered softly, and then asked, what about my father? Who is he? Your father also used a fake identity when he lived in seclusion in that village. Later, most of his body was destroyed, and it was no longer recognizable. We only know that his fake name is Ning Yi. Moqiu said, after thinking about it. These are the news she has gradually found out over the years. So, did they elope? That mysterious group of people are actually my grandfather's family. For example, my uncle? Then isn't it the script of Cheng Xiang that I got? Ning Meng didn't feel much sadness when she suddenly heard about her parents' tragic experience. After all, she was too young at the time and had no impression of her biological parents at all. Her only relative is her master. As for Cheng Xiang, the story of splitting the mountain to save his mother is a myth and legend in the Zuanshan world, which has been circulated since ancient times. But Moqiu, who has been observing his apprentice, doesn't quite understand this, and asked with a strange look, Ning Meng, is your focus not right? Don't you feel sad? Then do you want me to cry on the spot? Ning Meng's red eyes revealed a look of disapproval. She talked to her master without restraint and said directly, I'm even a little happy that I was not abandoned by them. As for what happened to my parents, I will avenge them after I find out the reason. The little girl was extremely optimistic and even spoke heroically, but Moqiu rolled his eyes at her and said, they have a master of supernatural powers. What can you, a wretch with no eyes, do to avenge them? Ning Meng showed an ambiguous smile on her face. If I can't do it, don't I still have master? If you can't do it, don't you still have that master Chen? At that time, I will sacrifice my beauty with master, and he will help me obediently. Ouch. Before she could finish her words, Moqiu punched her on the head. When the time comes, I'll put you, the little slut, on Master Chen's bed first. Moqiu said unhappily. Ning Meng, who had been holding her head and squeezing out tears, immediately burst into laughter and nodded repeatedly. Okay, look at how useless you are. MOQIU tapped her forehead with his finger and said angrily, can't you just work hard on your own? Master, isn't your way of working hard to go to Master Chen's bedroom in the middle of the night to eat meat? Ning Meng muttered. She had long noticed that every time the master came back from eating meat, his cultivation would skyrocket. MOQIU was speechless, because this was the fact. But at this time she also realized that her apprentice was using mischief to hide her true emotions, but MOQIU didn't expose her, but pulled her into his arms and whispered, don't worry, master will never let anything happen to you. HMM. Ning Meng buried her whole face in MOQIU's chest, enjoying the warmth of the moment. But soon, she had difficulty breathing, and then she used her hands and feet to rescue herself from the situation where she was almost suffocated. She directly accused, Master, did you replenish the meat you ate at night? MOQIU gritted his teeth, thinking that he should teach his apprentice a little lesson so that she wouldn't be so disrespectful. But at this time, there was a knock on the door outside. It turned out that Feng Kang had arrived in Newman County after sending a message to the Golden Bio Martial Arts School. Tankid, who had a high nose and deep eyes, came to an inconspicuous western building in the south of the city. There are many westerners in Ganzhou, and such buildings are not uncommon due to the mutual influence of artistic styles. He hesitated for a long time and finally did not go in. He only thought to himself, wait a little longer. As long as the Garsha family doesn't succeed, there is no need to report the matter of Ning Meng. Hey, we have known each other for many years, and I finally softened my heart. There will be another update at night. Chapter 307 How to Give. Human County, the backyard of the Golden Bio Martial Arts Hall. After discussing with Gong Yun the details of how to trade with Ma Leoa, Zhao Chen returned to his room alone. It is not accurate to say that he was alone, because Gong Yun could no longer maintain her human form and followed in as a black cat. Zhao Chen no longer had to avoid her in most things, so he first sat cross-legged on the bed and entered the Dairi Xingcha with his spirit. With the help of the Xingcha and MOQIU's connection, he learned about the situation of the caravan. After learning that they were going to stay in Kyojiabao for a few days, waiting for a small team from the Yiranying to change guard and return to Human with the other party, Zhao Chen thought for a while and began to arrange various items to prepare for the ceremony of summoning the spirit of Cheyenne Blessed Land. The fog is heavy and the universe is filled with fragrance, and the Stargate is lit. The Golden Palace is opened in the Zuantan Palace, and the Cheyenne treasure mirror is heard. After knowing that the spirit of the Blessed Land was thinking about his star coins, Zhao Chen did not do the awkward dance, and was sure that the other party would definitely come. Soon, the surface of the pseudo-magic weapon level mirror in the center of the altar first turned dark blue, and then golden spots appeared, outlining one word after another. You can ask me for answers to questions, and the questioner must complete a task. After getting the answer, the little black cat on the side suddenly widened her eyes when she saw this scene, because she felt a familiar breath from the mirror. It feels like the master, but it has no connection with me. Is this what you rely on? The little black cat's voice immediately appeared in Zhao Chen's ears. When Gong Yun is in human form, she usually does not wear the concentric mother and child card, but after turning back into a black cat, she will put it on herself for the convenience of communication. Zhao Chen stroked her back with his hand and simply replied, it and I are just a cooperative relationship. Then, instead of asking the questions he prepared directly, he said as if chatting, what is your name? Do you have a name? After a row of golden ellipses floated across the surface of the mirror, it showed, you can call me Beijing. I promised that great being to take care of you, so the task of this question is, ask me questions about what Li Zuanhao calculated before entering the Red Gold Mountain. TSK. Others are forcing buying and selling, but you are forcing questions and answers. Zhao Chen sighed in his heart. Since this was one of the questions he prepared, Zhao Chen said readily, what did Li Zuanhao calculate before entering the Red Gold Mountain? The surface of the mirror was rippled, and soon a figure was reflected. It was a young man with a sharp and fierce temperament, and there was a red mark on the top of his head. Li Zuanhao. Is this the Li family's Dangsuen Zenran? He looks younger than me. While Zhao Chen was muttering in his heart, the young man in the mirror had finished his calculations. A bubble emerged from his mouth, and lines of text flashed quickly inside. A member of the Star Club found the remains of Emperor Tezu of Zhao Song buried in the Red Gold Mountain by chance, and found some treasures outside the remains. He then took them to Yuman and Dunhuang to sell, and was eventually spotted by the people of the Four Evils Hall. The people of the Four Evils Hall followed Fang Zuzi of the Star Club to the Red Gold area, gradually controlled the various forces in Bingquan Town, Red Gold Town and Jinwan Township, both official and underworld, and completely mastered the Red Gold area. Li Zhiling took the Supreme Induction Pill at the risk of his life, and obtained the innate magic spell Thousand Miles Transmission, which passed the news to the county city. The people of the Four Evils Hall had to gamble everything on it. But in fact, the town guard had already discovered the remains of the Red Gold Mountain. He used the concubine's daughter of the red-bearded dragon bloodline to marry the head of the Zhao family to make the key, and dragged Zhao Song into the water. As these words came into view, the various conspiracies hidden behind Bingquan Town finally surfaced and were exposed to Zhao Chen. Although he was a little surprised at the cartoon-like display method of the treasure mirror, Zhao Chen was not in the mood to care about it now. While petting the cat, he thought to himself, although the Li family's Dangsuen failed to calculate the level of evil god Song Wuyuru, the level of the town guard and my father, the level of the Four Evil Hall, and the various illusions created by the Four Evil Hall are consistent with the information I got before. But I didn't expect that the town guard Li, my nominal grandfather, was the mastermind behind the level below Song Wuyuru. This is information that was not even in the message my stepmother sent to Sister Hangsha before she died. My stepfather and step-grandfather hid it really well. In addition, my family is actually a descendant of the Zhao Song royal family, and one of the kings who fought with Emperor Gaozu of Daxia for the world. Although there is a treasure in Shijin Mountain, it contains the seal that Zhao Song Tezu used to suppress the soul of the red-bearded dragon. The reason why Senior Li Zuanhao went to Shijin Mountain in person was to prevent this evil spirit from returning with the help of the soul. But Senior Li also fell into Song Wuyuru's calculations, combined with the fact that Song Wuyuru looted the Zhao Song heritage taken away by the founder of the Xianmo sect in Wuiao Cape Heaven. The treasure in Shijin Mountain may have been forged by the evil god from beginning to end. And in order to make a fake treasure attract a real person, he used the entire Shijin area as a stage. No, the entire Ganzhou as a stage. Weaved a nearly perfect story, and finally deceived Senior Li. Zhao Chen roughly understood the conspiracy behind Bingquan Town, and felt deeply disgusted with Li Hu, the town commander who sold his daughter, and killed many of his men for a fake treasure. Although the biological father of this body was forced to get involved, his actions also made Zhao Chen feel disgusted. After all, the original owner, his brothers and sisters, and stepmother were just pawns and consumables in his eyes. Li Hu is a hidden magical cultivator, and his stepfather won't be much worse, but since they were able to enter the Shijin Mountain treasure before Senior Li Zuanhao, and triggered Song Wuyuru's trap, it is obvious that there are other Dangsuen forces that stopped Senior Li. Is it the work of Li Hu, or the arrangement of the Hall of Four Evils? In addition, there is the Master. There is a high probability that the Master is also a Dangsuen real person, but even he could not prevent the fog of history from being activated, which means that there is more than one Dangsuen on the enemy side. Master, did he notice something and rush over there on purpose? As his thoughts turned, Zhao Chen saw the picture in the mirror in the center of the altar gradually fade, and then a line of text was outlined. Task, please give me 2000 star coins. Zhao Chen came back to his senses and asked carefully, how to give it? Star coins have no entity, they are just a string of numbers. Can they still be transferred by a third party? Chapter 308 Three Groups. The surface of the magic mirror was rippled, golden light rose, and words condensed one after another. As long as you agree, I can naturally get the star coins. As long as I agree. In other words, even if I refuse to pay, you can't force the star coins from me. Zhao Chen narrowed his eyes, but he was not the kind of person who refused to pay, and he would have to deal with the spirit of blessed land in the future, so he couldn't ruin his reputation. So, while Zhao Chen separated his spirit and entered the star chariot, he nodded and said, "I agree to give the treasure mirror 2000 star coins." As soon as he finished speaking, he felt that some kind of power was in contact with the star chariot, and then his balance was reduced by 2000. This feeling is almost the same as spending star coins to use the accessories in the star raft. Speaking of which, the Cheyenne Blessed Land also uses star coins as currency. It can assign tasks, grant titles, and calculate the past and future. It may even have other functions before the death of its owner, the Star God's Mount Xing's engine. It's like a weakened version of the Dairi crossing raft. And the Cheyenne Blessed Land is the blessed land opened up by the Xing's engine. So what about the Dairi crossing raft? What is its essence? Blessed land? Cave heaven? Or something on a higher level? As his thoughts turned, Zhao Chen saw the golden light wriggling on the surface of the mirror, evolving into new text. Do you want to know the origins of France Li? Do you want to know Duan Mingsu's background? You can ask me, and the price is just a few star coins. These handwritings also have a gradient color effect, which is very eye-catching. Francis Li went to pursue that oldling, and he will probably not come to human again in a short time. It doesn't matter whether you know his origins or not. As for Duan Mingsu's background, I'm somewhat interested, but I'm not in a hurry. Let's talk about it later. Zhao Chen shook his head. After the deciphering of the texts in the past few days, his star coin reserves have dropped a lot. After all, he has to pay the difference between each sale and repair case, and the second Wu'ai Cave Heaven mission and the Chijin Mountain special mission that are about to come in succession will probably require a lot of star coins. Any savings are a bit. Moreover, the main purpose of summoning the spirit of Cheyenne Blessed Land this time has not been achieved. Thinking of this in his heart, Zhao Chen glanced at the dimming words on the surface of the mirror and asked, "Do you know who is planning to attack Ningmeng, and what is the purpose?" Hearing this, the dull surface of the magic mirror suddenly shone with golden light again, and quickly outlined the words. These are 2 questions, worth 1000 star coins together. After displaying this line of words, the treasure mirror seemed to be afraid that Zhao Chen would go back on his word, and quickly disassembled the golden light spots to form new words. You should know that the little girl named Ningmeng is an unawakened vampire. But in fact, she is actually the child of prophecy of the Gasha family, a family of warlocks in Taixi. She is the treasure that the Gasha family must find. There are currently 3 main groups of people who are targeting her. Under the words, the mirror light spread out, condensing into a picture. After the painter Levy used the ability of prophecy painting to draw a portrait of Ningmeng, a Taixi man named Garrett Gasha gave him the task of bringing back the child of prophecy. Then, the scene changed, and Garrett called a man in black named Zinzini, and asked him to secretly take Ningmeng away. If he failed to do so, he would sell the news of the child of prophecy to the moon worship cult, and would rather destroy it than let other vampire families get it. The scene changed again, and that Zinzini did not go to find Ningmeng at all, but went directly to the moon worship cult base in Liangzhou, and reported the matter. It turned out that this Zinzini had long been replaced by the believers of the moon worship cult, and even secretly contaminated Lord Gallad Gasha by covert means. He was just worried that the family's senior leaders would see it during remote communication, so he did not completely transform him. After this scene ended, another scene appeared of Tankid wandering in front of a western building in Human. The spirit of the blessed land labeled Tankid as a Camilla family spy. Currently, these 3 groups are targeting Ningmeng, but because Tankid selfishly thinks that you can protect Ningmeng and MOQIU, he has not reported it to the Camilla family for the time being. In other words, he discovered Ningmeng's identity a long time ago, but chose to conceal it for unknown reasons. Good fellow. This is more troublesome than I thought. However, those western forces have limited manpower in Daksha, and at most there are only 1 or 2 morning star wizards as they call them. The moon worship cult is actually similar. They are more active in the southwest Yangzhou and the many small vassal states of Daksha bordering Yangzhou. It is the best that they can send 1 or 2 demons or demon followers with magical powers to this northwest. If it were just like this, I would have the spare energy to protect her. After all, this is Daksha. If the moon worship cult and the Western Morning Star dare to commit crimes, as long as they delay for a moment, there will definitely be a powerful master of magical powers, or even a Dangshan real person to deal with them. But I can't always bring Ling Meng with me. I still have to find a way to solve the problem from the root. Well, I just don't know what the Son of Prophecy means. The Garsha family's effort to find her is probably not going to harm her. Thinking of this, Zhao Chen said carefully, "Don't you explain the meaning of Son of Prophecy? This should also be included in my previous question, right?" Upon asking, several lines of golden text appeared. It's not that I don't want to explain, it's that I don't know, because the Garsha family has only talked about this term in Ganzhou, but never explained it in detail. And this term itself seems to involve the ancestor of vampires. I can't calculate it. In addition, the answer ends here. The task this time is, pay me 600 star coins and 400 star coins respectively. So you can't calculate everything. Zhao Chen thought for a moment, and then paid the money happily. Although he felt a little painful, this was at least a Dangshan level calculation service, so he should have gotten the better deal. You have to know that even King Gaian's 9 Yaoi of celestial phenomena can't be so detailed when it comes to supernatural cultivators and families whose bloodline sources are Shengxuan or even higher. At most, you can get some revelations or keywords. What's more, the ancestor of the vampire family is very likely to be part of the Taiyi Daojin who was torn apart because of the join. If you can't beat them philosophy, he definitely made a profit by getting so much information at the price of 1000 star coins. Seeing that cracks had appeared on the surface of the magic mirror, Zhao Chen, who knew that this fake magic weapon was about to fail to bear the breath of the spirit of the blessed land, was about to end the summoning. But at this time, he suddenly found that the feel of stroking the little black cat had changed. From the soft and furry before, it suddenly became smooth and delicate. Then, Gong Yun's charming voice rang in his ears. "Wait a minute. I also want to ask a question. Is that okay? There is another chapter in the night. Chapter 309 Blood Moon. There is no doubt that this is Gong Yun who has changed back to human form. This lady Gong is not shy at all now." Zhao Chen calmly withdrew his hand from her smooth back, nodded without looking away and said, "If you have any questions, just ask directly. But you will also complete the corresponding tasks yourself." Gong Yun slowly pulled out a sheet from the bed and wrapped it around herself, then responded with a smile, "No problem." After that, she walked to the position that Zhao Chen had voluntarily given up and solemnly said, "Excuse me, what is the relationship between you and my master?" As one of the 7 heroes of Emonan, Gong Yun's brain is quite good. If she just felt that the spirit of the blessed land summoned by Zhao Chen was somewhat similar to the master at the beginning, how could she not make associations when the pattern of answering a question and issuing a task came out? It was just that Zhao Chen had something serious to ask, so she controlled her temper and waited until the other party was about to end the summoning before she restored her human form and got the opportunity to ask questions. On the mirror, the words glowed, "I'm also a servant of the master. I was just contacting you on behalf of the master before. It really is the master I thought it was before. No wonder it feels so familiar to me, but has no connection with me. It turns out it's just a middleman to pass messages." Seeing its attitude of being almost fawning on Zhao Chen and not even giving him an embarrassing task, could it be that Zhao Chen can directly contact the master? Is his status even higher than this spirit of the blessed land? Gong Yun's thoughts were in a mess for a while, until the cracks got bigger and bigger, and the magic mirror that was about to break gave a task, be a mount for Zhao Chen for a day. Be a mount for a day. Familiar recipe, familiar taste, it really is the guy who has been issuing tasks to me. Gong Yun became more certain of her previous judgment. After all, it is not easy to find a second thing with such a bad taste. As for being a mount for Zhao Chen, she didn't care at all. After all, this level of task could no longer shake her mind. Gong Yun even turned her head and glanced at Zhao Chen and asked with a teasing smile, "Which form of me do you want to ride?" Zhao Chen was quite speechless about this. He could probably guess the reason why the spirit of the blessed land sent this task. He wanted Gong Yun to settle on her status. But what's so good about fighting for the status of a mount? Well, Gongyun, after all, was also the incarnation that the spirit of the blessed land had prepared for itself. Even if it gave me the identity of master, the fate of the two is probably complementary. Could it be that Gongyun's fate could increase and indirectly benefit the spirit of the blessed land? Is it so sure that I can achieve great success in the future? Zhao Chen ignored Gongyun's teasing and just watched the fake magic mirror shatter into several pieces after a pop. In an inconspicuous courtyard in Human County, more than a dozen men and women with more or less Western features gathered here. Some of them carried swords and knives, some carried gun bags, and some wore exotic costumes. They were all energetic, and you could tell at a glance that they were martial arts masters. These people are all retainers loyal to the Garsha family. At this time, they are all looking at the painter Li Wei in the front, who has a high nose and deep eyes, waiting for him to assign tasks. According to the information bought from the intelligence dealer, the target is now staying in the original Black Wind Castle, preparing to return to Human with the alien camp. The alien camp will set off in about 2 days. And we need to intercept their team halfway and snatch the target, Li Wei said, and took out a painting. That was exactly the place where Moqiu, Ning Meng and his party would pass by. It was the best place he predicted to take action. A woman who covered the left half of her face with a cloth strip said in confusion at this time, the caravan guards of the Golden Art Martial Arts Hall are well trained and have powerful firearms. Although the rotation team of the alien camp is small in number, they are all elites who have at least opened the 7 orifices. And those who can enter the alien camp have innate or acquired supernatural powers. Although the cost of using them is quite high, they are very difficult to deal with. Why should we start when the caravan and the alien camp are together? Wouldn't it be better to wait for the target to return to Human and then quietly kidnap him? Her question also represents the opinions of most of the people present. Although they are loyal to the Garsha family, they are not death warriors and will not go to die for no reason. It's very simple. After the target returns to Human, he is likely to be protected by the monks with magical powers. Levy replied lightly. Although he needs the help of these family worshippers, he does not completely trust them, so he did not tell them who the target is. Monks with magical powers. Everyone's heart trembled, and no more words were said. The 2 words magical powers explained everything. Even the 9th grade magical powers are much more difficult to deal with than the alien camp and the musketeers. No, to be precise, they can't deal with the magical powers at all. Seeing that everyone had no objection, Levy nodded and said, in short, we will set off this afternoon and ambush at the designated location in advance. You go and make your own preparations first, in groups of 3, supervise each other, and gather here in an hour. Yes, sir. Liangzhou, Ziliang City. One of the bases of the moon worship cult is located in a small tea house in the city. Although the desserts in the building are quite famous, most of the customers choose to take them away, so there are few customers in the building. The owner of the tea house is a middle-aged man in his 40s. He is unkempt and has disheveled hair on weekdays. He looks like a famous scholar in the Wei and Jin dynasties. Unfortunately, he is not well received in Daksha. At this time, the middle-aged man named Shike was pacing back and forth in front of a table in the dark room, and from time to time he would glance at the telegraph machine on the table that was dyed a strange red. I have reported the matter of the son of prophecy of the vampire family for several days. Why is there no news from the supreme elders? If we wait any longer, I'm afraid we will miss the opportunity. After all, who the son of prophecy is, has not been found out yet. If the Garsha family really succeeds, it will strengthen the fortune of the vampire family in the future, which will be detrimental to the Great Blood Moon. It's a pity that my sect is not strong enough in the interior of Daksha, and I'm just a beginner. Just as he thought of this, he heard a da-da-da sound, and a line of blood-colored words automatically spitted out from the typewriter, connected to the telegraph machine. A day after tomorrow, the Blood Moon will come to Ganzhou. Blood Moon. The middle-aged man Shike was delighted, because the night of the blood moon meant that the power of the barrier covering Daksha was at a low point, and the sect could send more power to the human area through the air. Chapter 310 Meng Family. In a guest room in a small courtyard of the Human County Magistrate's Mansion, Duan Mingsu, who was dressed simply, was listening carefully to the green-robed young master Li Changsheng telling about the series of changes in the Yunlu Villa incident. Although she had heard this information once from Yan San, she still did not miss any details as a confirmation. Moreover, although Li Changsheng was not present at the time, he seemed to know some more secret things, such as the true background of Ma Guangliang. Ma Guangliang is suspected to be the reincarnation of a real person from the Heavenly Demon sect, seeking the position of Heavenly Demon. So that's the case. That makes sense. However, since he dared to hurt Brother Ming, don't blame me for not considering our past friendship. Duan Mengsu narrowed her eyes slightly, rarely revealing a little murderous intent, but quickly restrained it, and asked, do you know anything about the magical cultivator who captured Ma Guangming? Yes, but not much. Li Changsheng nodded and continued, this cultivator with supernatural powers should have arrived in the human area more than 2 months ago. According to the confirmation of Fairy Yinglong, the method he displayed should be the 6th grade supernatural power transformation divine wind escape, and it is very likely that he came from the East China Sea, and the other party was able to take on my father's Blue Lotus floating smoke sword head on, which means he has at least a 4th grade or even 3rd grade defensive magical power. Is he actually a top grade magical power user? Duan Mengsu frowned and asked, besides that, has he ever had any other records of taking action? This person is suspected to have a grudge against the Che family. Before the Che family held a ceremony to summon the demons of the Xinjiang temple, he sent a letter to my father and then kidnapped Che Yugang's niece Che Qingsu. At this point, Li Changsheng paused, as if he remembered something, and added, by the way, my father calculated that his surname was Wang, and when he first took action at the human wharf, it was to save a pair of brothers named Wang from Che Qingsu. Then, he repeated in detail the scene of Li Fuan rescuing Che Yugang at that time. Surname Wang, using the divine wind magical power. Duan Mengsu muttered a few words in a low voice, and looked at the beautiful woman wearing a white veil beside him. The latter's eyes seemed to have many characters flashing, and he quickly spoke, the king of Xiangshan, the king of Langaya, and the king of Jianai. These Wang families all had divine wind-like classics and offensive magical powers above the 4th grade. Xiangshan is located near a volcano in Yingzhou. The family's fundamental practice is the Book of the God of Fire's Destruction of the World, which contains a 4th grade magical power adding earth life, which is both offensive and defensive, but this magical power makes a lot of noise when used, which is inconsistent with Mr. Li's description. The Langaya Wang family is a relative of the Langaya Zhuge family, one of the aristocratic families. The family practice Wang's Book of Changes originated from the Zhuge family's Dunjia Heavenly Book and Dairi Xingcha Gao Shentu, and is more proficient in divination and calculation, and has a 3rd grade magical power destiny boundary. The performance of this magical power is quite similar to the defensive magical power encountered by Senior Li Fuan. Both have no effect after being hit, because Destin cannot hurt him. The Wang family of Jianai is the wife of the current imperial concubine. They have been awarded many defensive magical powers by the royal family. One of them is the Wind God Fantasy Realm magical power, which is ranked 2nd grade, and it also fits Mr. Li's description. Hearing the beauty in front of him talking about the magical powers of various families, Li Changsheng couldn't help but look at her a few more times and sighed. This girl is really knowledgeable. In other words, is it possible that the person came from the king of Langaya or the king of Jianai? Duan Mengsu nodded thoughtfully, and then asked, where are the Wang brothers who were saved by the magical cultivator now? They are all dead. One died in the Xinjiang Temple Demon Rebellion and the Stone Buddha Temple, and the other was killed by the people of the Four Evil Hall before that. Li Changsheng replied after recalling. Why were they killed? Duan Mengsu asked, didn't the magical power save them again? The mysterious senior should have helped them avenge. But I don't know why they were killed. Li Changsheng lowered his eyes and shook his head to answer. In fact, he had some guesses about the death of the Wang brothers, but the Zhao brothers and sisters who were the source of the incident had been forgotten at this time, and he did not want to reveal the fact that he still remembered it. Duan Mengsu stared at Li Changsheng for a few times, and intuitively felt that the other party seemed to be hiding something, but it should be irrelevant to what he wanted to know, so he did not ask any more questions, and turned to talk about Ma Guanglian's actions in the Wuya Valley market. After a while, Duan Mingsu, who was relatively satisfied with this exchange, ended the conversation and asked carefully, I would like to ask the green-robed gentleman to introduce me to the delusion-breaking Igong female knight. Mingsu will definitely reward you generously afterwards. In the main hall of the county magistrate's mansion, a young man in his 20s wearing gorgeous clothes and a high crown was drinking and chatting with another younger gentleman. They looked similar, but one looked extremely weak, while the other was strong and powerful. The weak one was the county magistrate Mingcheng, and the strong and powerful one was his half-brother Mingsu, the editor-in-chief of the Human Renji list. The two of them are less than a year apart in age, so they have been close since childhood. Brother, are you really not going to try to pursue that Sakura dragon fairy anymore? She is not like before, and has obviously been tempted by worldly desires. Minglu teased. In order to help you, I have been working hard to discredit Zhao Chen's reputation. Did it work? County Magistrate Mingcheng held up a wine glass and glanced at his brother casually. That fairy Zheng did not dislike Zhao Chen because of his fickleness. Not disliking him now does not mean she won't in the future. Minglu looked like he had everything under control. When they fall out, it will all be Zhao Chen's fault. Stop thinking about it. You only see that Zhao Chen has his current status thanks to many female cultivators, but you didn't notice that his strength is improving as fast as any child from aristocratic families. This kind of person is favored by luck, not something that can be easily found. You'd better not go too far. Mingcheng paused for a moment before continuing, and your brother has no thoughts about Fairy Zheng at all now. Under the influence of the Dragon King, she is no longer human. Perhaps she is obsessed with Zhao Chen in order to regain more humanity, so the Zheng family did not interfere? Minglu shrugged and said, I dare not underestimate Zhao Chen. If he is not still in the refining stage, I would have included him in the human outstanding people list. But he can improve so fast. He should have obtained the position of Lion Du Bodhisattva, and he will have to pass the test of the King's Hao Meng family sooner or later. I did not write a letter to inform the Meng family directly because I was concerned about the face of the Sakura Dragon Fairy. But according to the information I received, the direct descendants of the Meng family have also entered the world and are heading northwest. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311 Duan Mingsu's Purpose. Human County, the bedroom in the backyard of the Golden Bio Martial Arts School. Zheng Qingyan had just returned from the county magistrate's mansion when she saw Zhao Chen, who was sorting out the fragments of the magic weapon, and Gong Yun, who was wrapped in only a thin sheet, with her fair neck and shoulders completely exposed. It's still daytime, don't you pay attention to the impact? Zheng Qingyan said expressionlessly. There was even a distinct sour taste in her tone. Zhao Chen, knowing that she was starting to perform again, turned his head and looked at Gong Yun, who was grinning, and said helplessly, did you hear me? Put on your clothes quickly. After all, although this look is pleasing to the eye, it is also testing his endurance. Does that mean we don't need to pay attention to the impact at night? Gong Yun caught the loophole in Zheng Qingyan's words and asked back with a sweet smile. However, this remark sounded a bit provocative. Zheng Qingyan glanced at her and said calmly, there's no need to put on clothes. She won't be able to stay like this for long anyway. Even if she puts on clothes, she'll have to take them off again soon. It's very troublesome. After that, she pointed at Gong Yun, and the bedsheet on the latter immediately fell off, and a black cat jumped out of it and jumped onto Zhao Chen's shoulder. You should accumulate more strength in this form. Someone will come to you soon to ask you something. Don't reveal your true identity in front of outsiders. Zheng Qingyan said seriously. Zhao Chen had already cleaned up all the items used in the previous ceremony. He coughed and changed the subject. But Duan Mingsu is coming? Zheng Qingyan turned her eyes away from the black cat and nodded. Yes. If nothing unexpected happens, she and her veiled companion will come to visit formally tonight. The young master in green robe will probably accompany them as well. So urgent? Zhao Chen said in surprise. How can you send a visiting card at night? How can a cultivator with supernatural powers care about day or night when doing things? I didn't come to you directly because I was concerned about your reputation, Zheng Qingan said lightly while sitting on the bed. Zhao Chen also pulled a chair over and put it beside the bed. After sitting down, he held the little black cat in his arms and asked carefully while stroking the cat, "How much do you know about Duan Mingsu?" In fact, the spirit of the blessed land really wanted to answer this question for Zhao Chen, but unfortunately the latter felt that with the support of the Zheng family's intelligence and Ma Guangming's memory, there was no need to waste star coins. After hearing you mention her before, I sent people to Liang's how to collect information, and with some revelations from calculations, I can roughly figure out her background. Zheng Qingan paused, glanced at the little black cat who was enjoying Zhao Chen stroking his back, and continued, Duan Mingsu is the illegitimate daughter of a real person in the upper sect Dending Xianzang. Well, it's not accurate to say illegitimate daughter. She is actually the daughter born from the reincarnation of that real person and a mortal woman before awakening her memory. And that mortal woman is a very good friend of Ma Guangming and Ma Guangliang's mother. Duan Mingsu and Ma Guangming have similar backgrounds. They lived next to each other when Ma Guangming's family was driven out by the Sima family, so Duan Mingsu and Ma Guangming have a very close relationship. Hearing this, Zhao Chen nodded and said, childhood sweethearts. Ma Guangming also has them in his memory. Even his obsession with achieving top-grade magical powers. There is also a potential factor that he wants to be worthy of Duan Mingsu. It's just that he himself is unwilling to admit it. But Ma Guangming didn't know that Duan Mingsu was actually the daughter of a certain immortal. No wonder her cultivation speed is advancing by leaps and bounds, leaving the Ma brothers far behind. Zheng Qingan nodded slightly and continued, Duan Mingsu should have some feelings for Ma Guangming, but in order to take care of Ma Guangming's dignity, she did not promote him openly, but only provided help in secret, until Ma Guangming abandoned Moqiu's mother, and then gradually alienated him. Ma Guangming became more paranoid because of this, and was eventually deceived by Ma Guangliang. Zhao Chen then spoke up to defend Ma Guangming. In fact, the reason why Ma Guangming cheated on Moqiu's mother was because Moqiu's mother looked very similar to Duan Mingsu, and he was in a wrong state that night. Now it seems that he was probably calculated by Ma Guangliang. He felt that he had let Duan Mingsu down, so he ignored Moqiu and her daughter. Never mind, that's even more despicable. But he was already deeply evil at the time, so it's understandable. Zheng Qingan did not comment on this, and continued, Duan Mingsu has now realized this through her communication with Yan Sanxia and the young man in green robe, so she has two purposes for coming here. One is to kill Ma Guangliang to avenge her brother Ming. The second is to find Ma Guangming. Her first goal is the same as yours, maybe you can cooperate. Zhao Chen frowned. He didn't want to cooperate with such an uncontrollable and unpredictable person, but the plan to lure Ma Guangliang out discussed with the little black cat might not be able to completely bypass her. So he still had to get to know her as much as possible. I know she is a master of formations and puppetry, but what are her specific methods? Zhao Chen asked. Duan Mingsu's actions are rarely recorded, and her details are unknown. But what is certain is that her main practice is the Shanding Zendao of the outer sect of the Danding Xianzang, and she also studied the Momen Fei Jai Yaoju. The highest achievements of these two practices are 2/3 grade magical powers, namely the Shanding Zhu and Huo Zen and the Yanling Jiji Jaya. I don't know if she has mastered it. In addition, according to my calculations, the two women who came to Human are probably not her real body. No, it should be said that before entering Human, her real body may still be there, but the one who entered the county magistrate's mansion is definitely not. Zheng Qingan said solemnly. The one who entered Human was not her real body? Then where is her real body? Zhao Chen narrowed his eyes and said meaningfully, it seems that Duan Mingsu's purpose is not simple. Maybe it is true that she wants to find Ma Guangming or help him get revenge, but she may also have the idea of using this incident to cover up a deeper purpose. On this point, I'm afraid that I was misled by Ma Guangming's memory. After so many years, it was hard to judge how much affection she still had for Ma Guangming. You know, before going to explore Yunlu Villa, Ma Guangming deliberately lowered his face to ask for help from the other party, and Duan Mingsu only helped to crack some of the restrictions and gave him a purple ribbon robe. For a moment, Zhao Chen wanted to call the spirit of the blessed land out again to ask, but after thinking about it carefully, Duan Mingsu's real purpose actually had little to do with him, so there was no need to figure it out. Her concentration on other things was actually a good thing for him. Chapter 312, Role-Playing Opportunity. Duan Mingsu's purpose has little to do with me. What's more, the magic level mirror is rare, and I only have one left in my hand. It's better to keep it for the critical moment. After making up his mind, Zhao Chen no longer dwelled on this topic, and instead mentioned Ning Meng's matter to Zheng Qingyuan, and asked for her opinion. Hearing this, Zheng Qingyuan thought for a moment, and said with certainty, the moon worship cult will definitely make a big move. Is there any evidence? Zhao Chen asked. Zheng Qingyuan shook her head and said, no evidence is needed, and I don't know what the Son of Prophecy specifically represents. But the fact that the Gasha family, one of the 5 major vampire families, attaches so much importance to it must involve the tribe's luck. And the moon worship cult will not miss any opportunity to weaken the luck of the vampire family. A fight for luck? Zhao Chen weighed his tone and said, is it a continuation of the fight between Blood Moon and Silver Moon? You actually knew? Zheng Qingyuan said in surprise. Zhao Chen smiled and said, when I was in the Biu market, I translated a book called The Origin of the Moon Worship Cult. It said that Taidaojin was split into 4 parts. One became the Blood Moon, hanging in the sky. One became the representative of the Silver Moon, incarnated as the ancestor of the vampire clan. One was obtained by Taidaojin of the Danding Xianzang, and became one of the cornerstones of his enlightenment. And the last part was lost in history and disappeared. I just don't know if it's true. As far as I know, it's roughly like this. That's why I'm sure that the people of the moon worship cult will take action. Zheng Qingyuan nodded slightly. Then she looked at Zhao Chen and said meaningfully, but this is a very good opportunity for you. Zhao Chen knew that Qingyuan was referring to the opportunity to play the role of escort, which was actually what he was thinking. Otherwise, he would have personally brought back senior brother Feng and the other 2, so how could he let them be in danger? He was just waiting for MOQIU to ask him for help and ask him to protect himself and Ning Meng. The power that the moon worship cult can deploy is only at the level of magical power, right? Zhao Chen frowned and asked as if to confirm. Don't get out of hand by mistake. If you provoke a Demon King level evil, let alone play the role of a bodyguard, it will be difficult to escape. Don't worry, I'm here. Even if there is a power at the level of Dunk Sun coming, it will be stopped. Zheng Qingyuan said confidently. No matter how much she acted, she was not the original Zheng Qingyuan after all. She would not act alone like her evil dragon immortal body. As the daughter of a noble family, she could have applied to the family for a protector temporarily. That's good. Zhao Chen also figured it out. After heaving a sigh of relief, he did not forget to tease the little black cat in his arms. When the time comes, we have to pose together in a handsome appearance. Kyoji Abeo, the original Z family underground fortress has long been buried, and now a western-style castle has been built on the original site as the Kyo family villa. This building was built by magic, so it was completed in just a few weeks. In the villa, an elite team was watching the singing and dancing of the singing girl rehearsing, while enjoying various delicacies. At this time, a tall woman wearing a headscarf and only a pair of enchanting green eyes revealed pushed the door into the banquet hall and walked straight to the man sitting in the main seat. The man had deep facial features and a tall stature. Even if he was just sitting, he was more than 1.7 meters tall, and his purple hair was even more eye-catching. This person was Kyozi, the captain of this alien cam team, and he was also the only son of Kyo Zhao, the purple-bearded King Khan who ranked 9th on the human outstanding list. Captain, I have conveyed our attitude to the caravan of the Golden Art Martial Arts Hall, and I have agreed to their request to travel with us on your behalf. The woman with a different charm in her enchanting eyes reported meticulously. She is the adjutant of the team, Yeohua, also known as Demon Flower. Well done, you are making me less worried. Kyozi nodded with satisfaction and stretched out his hand. to pull this subordinate with a pretty good figure into his arms, letting her sit on his lap. "Captain, is it just a golden art martial arts school that requires us to please him so much? The so-called blood sword young master is just a man who relies on women." At this time, a bold member of the team suddenly shouted, obviously unable to understand the courtesy Kyozi gave to the caravan. But before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Kyozi, who scolded him, "Shut up. Who do you think you are? How dare you look down on a genius who can jump from an ordinary warrior to a cultivator of orifices in less than 3 months and has a combat power that is not inferior to that of an ordinary 9 orifices. Even my father praised the blood sword young master and humbled himself to him. How dare you speak rudely after drinking a little wine?" Exclamation mark. He said this with great severity, and the bald man's face turned red, but he could not talk back. "And the fire gun team of the Golden Art Martial Arts School is well trained. Acting with them will also guarantee our safety." Kyozi's tone softened a little when he said this. "Don't forget, some people don't want us to return to human. Captain Yun himself has lost power. Do those guys he promoted really dare to attack us?" Another team member asked in a deep voice. This is a man with a face full of vicissitudes, and his companions call him old chap. Seeing the question, Kyozi did not answer it himself, but patted Yaohua's butt, who was sitting on his lap, and said with a smile, "Hua, you tell me." Yaohua was not afraid either. She twisted her body, changed into a comfortable posture, and said, "It's very simple. After experiencing the taste of power, even if it is only a small power, those guys are unwilling to give up. And as long as we disappear, they can find the murderer in time, and they can not only make meritorious service, but also eliminate the captain, their biggest competitor. This truth is not worth mentioning after all." Old Cha quickly came to his senses, but was still a little confused and asked, "Aren't they afraid that Captain Kyo will return to Dunhuang to take up his post?" Of course they are afraid, but they have to take a gamble. After all, the fact that they defected to Yun Yuan so quickly makes it impossible for them to turn back. Of course, those idiots didn't realize that they were being used as knives in the hands of others. They were actually just pawns thrown out afterwards to appease Captain Kyo's anger. Yaohua explained with a smile. The so-called others refers to the people in Dunhuang, because the Yun family offended the powerful people of the Kyo family. I see. Old Cha's face showed a look of realization, but he still had some questions in his heart. For example, even if there was a grudge, why would the other party choose such an extreme method? And why were the captain and Hua so sure that the other party would choose such an extreme method? But seeing that the captain had picked up Hua and walked towards the back room, he didn't say anything else, as it was not an important matter anyway. At night, Duan Mingsu and Li Changsheng, who had finished their conversation, finally came to the gate of the Golden Art Martial Arts Hall and handed in their visiting cards. Chapter 313 Negotiation. In the living room of the Golden Art Martial Arts Hall, Zhao Chen sat in the main seat. On his left was a cool and self-assured Zheng Qingyan, with her eyebrows lightly brushed. On his right sat the neatly dressed sisters Gong Yun and Gong Fei. Of course, Gong Fei was actually Gong Yun transformed by the double phantom. On the sofa opposite them sat a man and 2 women, Li Changsheng, Duan Mingsu, and the beautiful woman wearing a white veil. However, according to Qingyan, Duan Mingsu's real body had disappeared after entering the city, and now these 2 women should be her mechanical puppets. After a few simple greetings, Li Changsheng looked at the lazy 5th sister, who leaned almost half of her body on Zhao Chen. While feeling sorry for the 4th brother Lu Zhen, his expression also moved, and he was surprised. 5th sister, you are no longer suppressing the seed of laziness in your body? He had just taken the initiative to stimulate the seed of gluttony in his body not long ago, and he was not unfamiliar with this state. I want to make a deal with Ma Guangliang. Gong Yun responded with a smile and stopped talking, only looking at the 2 ladies beside the 6th brother. After asking the servants to prepare tea and snacks, Zhao Chen also asked at the right time, I wonder what important matter has come to my house at night. Duan Mingsu got straight to the point. I want to know the details of a series of changes in the Yunlu villa. I would like to ask Miss Gong to help me solve my doubts. When hearing this question, Gong Yun deliberately looked up at Zhao Chen, and after seeing him nod slightly, she organized the following sentences and told the situation of that day one by one. Duan Mingsu had actually heard these contents from Yansen and Li Changsheng once, but she was still very serious and soon discovered a piece of information that she had not mastered before. Miss Gong, are you saying that Brother Ming did not wait for the reply letter I gave to Zhuang Bufan and ventured into the villa? Although Zhuang Bufan was a bandit leader who obeyed Ma Guangming, he was also his childhood friend and was very trusted. Otherwise Ma Guangming would not have sent him to Duan Mingsu for help. That's right. Gong Yun responded affirmatively. In fact, it was Zhao Chen who told her about this, and she said it now, in order to attract Duan Mingsu's attention. Duan Mingsu immediately counted on her fingers, but after a long time, she failed to get any useful inspiration, so she had to give up. Then, after several people exchanged some information about Ma Guangliang, Duan Mingsu solemnly requested, I hope Miss Gong can use herself as bait to lure Ma Guangliang out. Of course, I will guarantee the safety issue, and if you have any conditions, just mention them. Gong Yun looked at Zhao Chen again, and when she saw him nod, she smiled and said, in fact, we have this intention, otherwise I would not have stimulated the seed of laziness in my body. Well, before you came, we were going to ask Sixth Brother to spread the news and lure Ma Guangliang into the trap. Then, she recounted the plan she had discussed with Zhao Chen before, and even briefly mentioned the situation of the little girl Zhao Royan's current dream being polluted, but at the end she emphasized, but whether to cooperate or not still depends on young Master Chen. Duan Mingsu was quite surprised to see Gong Yun following Zhao Chen's lead. She didn't expect that this famous female knight was actually captured by Zhao Chen. She had to change her strategy temporarily after a little thought. The beautiful woman in the veil spoke, young Master Zhao Chen, I beg you to let us join your plan. During this period, we will obey your command, and will not disrupt your layout. Well, we can sign a contract. As she spoke, the woman took off the white veil on her face, revealing a face that was stunningly beautiful, even more beautiful than Zenkingan. Duan Mingsu obviously felt that Zhao Chen's reputation was not groundless, and wanted to use her beauty to influence the other party's decision. Zhao Chen knew her little thoughts very well, but he also wanted to control the uncontrollable factors as much as possible, so he simply pretended to be tricked and agreed to the other party's request, and only fought for the specific conditions, so that the two girls in front of him would obey his orders and become his strength, before they really caught Ma Guangliang. In this regard, Duan Mingsu hesitated for a moment and agreed. After all, there were only two puppets present. Even if one of them had its own spirit by chance, it was still a tool, and whoever used the tool didn't care. What's more, their stay here with Zhao Chen was itself an important alibi evidence, which served as a cover for what she really wanted to do. Then please trouble Master Chen to reserve a room for me in the martial arts hall. Seeing that she had reached a consensus with the other party, Duan Mingsu smiled brightly, and the empty room was shining. Zhao Chen, who secretly used the 16 gold star Libra sword to witness this transaction, also clapped his hands and said, there is no rush to arrange the room. I just happen to have a troublesome matter that needs you to do. I can't stand staying up all night anymore. My mind is confused, and I don't know what I'm writing. This chapter is over for now. Chapter 314 Reminder. After Duan Mingsu and Li Changsheng left one after another, Zheng Qinggan used the dream of the goddess of beauty magical power to cover the entire room. Then she glanced at Gong Yun, who was half leaning on Zhao Chen as if demonstrating, and asked expressionlessly, tell the young master in green robe that the moon worship sect is about to make a big move in the northwest, so that the Li family can be prepared. But why did you let the Duan Mingsu go to deliver the message to those vampire families? They are also planning on Ningmeng, right? Zhao Chen shook his head slightly and said, I have reviewed the records of the moon worship sect's previous crimes from the Taoist official office, and found that they often do not target only one person, but are accustomed to creating chaos in nearby towns, to involve forces at the level of magical powers. I'm afraid it will be the same this time. I can't just let them act, because I need to act. Informing the Li family in advance, so that they can be prepared, can also reduce losses. And didn't I also conceal the real goal of the moon worship cult? As for the reminder to the vampire family, it's because their fight for Ningmeng is not necessarily malicious, and they can jointly deal with the attack of the moon worship cult when necessary. Gong Yun interrupted at this time. There is no need to ask Du and Mingsu to do this favor. Wouldn't it be better for us to remind her ourselves? Why? Do you really want her to stay in the martial arts hall tonight? Seeing Gong Yun shaking her head, Zhao Chen chuckled and said, I gave her this task in order to send her out for a few days and then talk about it after the Ningmeng matter is settled. Well, I asked you to mention Zhuang Bufan deliberately before for the same reason, just to arouse her interest and let her go out to investigate. Unfortunately, she seems to have only such friendship with Ma Guangming, and she doesn't intend to really delve into it. Gong Yun showed a look of realization, and then said thoughtfully, it seems that the thing she did in her original body is the most important in her heart. Indeed, I don't know what the first goal of this Master Mingsu is. Zhao Chen nodded and continued, but based on her performance, it can be seen that once that thing is done, she is likely to become a suspect, and she is unwilling to bear, or cannot bear, the corresponding consequences. So, she took public transportation all the way to Human under the banner of investigating her former friend Ma Guangming, and wanted to join our plan to borrow me. Well, it should be mainly to borrow King Guyan and the Li family, to provide her with an alibi. Zheng King Guyan also added at this time, it won't be a trivial matter, but it is highly unlikely to happen in Ganzhou, and has nothing to do with us. But since she wants to use us as tools, she has to pay the corresponding price. Zhao Chen smiled and said mysteriously, Dunhuang, the home of middle-level official. A middle-aged man with ordinary looks and a little bit fat was holding the hand of a woman in red, and said in a flattering manner with an obsessed look on his face, I have already persuaded the captains of the alien camp who had previously defected to the Yun family, to hunt down Cao Zhao's son. Seeing that I have done such a good job, it's time for me to get close to me, right? The woman withdrew her hand inconspicuously, and said with a smile, Sir, why are you in such a hurry? Let's talk about it at night. Her voice was charming, as if she was flirting with her lover. The middle-aged man was itching to do it, but he didn't get impatient. He just said unwillingly, you little goblin, you are really annoying. The woman personally poured a glass of wine, and handed it to the man as an apology, but her pair of red eyes were terribly cold. In Newman County, in a western-style villa in the south of the city, Tankid, who was tied up tightly, knelt in the middle of the hall. The person in charge of the Camilla family in Newman glanced at him and snorted coldly, huh, you dare to conceal such important information about Ningmeng? Do you want to break the oath of allegiance to the mistress? The person in charge was a man with a high nose bridge. He had brown hair and red eyes, and his face was deeply lined. He held a picture album in his hand, on which was a portrait of Ningmeng. I didn't mean to break my oath. I only found out a day ago that the son of prophecy that the Gasha family has been looking for is Ningmeng. I haven't had time to report it yet. Tankid defended himself. The person in charge sneered. This little girl named Ningmeng has such distinctive features, and you have known her for a long time, but you didn't list her as a suspect. How do you explain this? Tankid was silent for a few seconds, and then he said helplessly, Ningmeng has never awakened, and was not known to the Gasha family before. She posed no threat to us, and even now, with the protection of Zhao Chen, the Gasha family may not be able to take her away. The person in charge waved his hand to interrupt. Her existence itself is a threat to our Camilla family. Fortunately, Katie from Dunhuang discovered the unusual movements of some retainers of the Gasha family, otherwise I would still be kept in the dark by you. Tankid stared at the person in charge with a murderous face for a long time, and then argued in a low voice, the Gasha family is also a vampire family. What did you say? The person in charge asked with a frown. I mean, whether it's the Gasha family, the Camilla family, or Ningmeng, they are all vampires. We are all descendants of the first ancestor. Is it necessary to fight to this extent for that qualification? If we continue to fight internally like this, will the situation of the first ancestor really get better? Tankid summoned up his courage and asked loudly. A trace of shock flashed in the blood-red eyes of the person in charge, but then he became angry and said, what do you know? The son of prophecy is a revelation left by the first ancestor. The struggle may be part of the ritual, but I don't see that you are doing this for the first ancestor. The top leaders of each family are just fighting for power and profit. Tancred revealed all the thoughts that he had suppressed for many years. How dare you? The person in charge smashed the table in front of him with a slap and ordered the tribesmen beside him coldly, lock him up and deal with him after we catch the son of prophecy of the Gasha family. After Tancred, who looked dejected, was taken away, a blood-red light flashed across the forehead of the person in charge of the Camilla family, and he thought to himself, I also know that such a struggle has passed, but there is no going back. After sighing, he summoned the family's worshippers and retainers, and said directly to Zhao Chen, tonight, the officers and soldiers of Human will gather horse bandits to attack the caravan of the Golden Art Martial Arts Hall and a team of the alien camp. Your task is to take advantage of the chaos, to kill one of the girls. In the underground prison, Tancred leaned against the wall motionlessly, as if he was feeling sad for his family and race. But at this moment, the silver door of the cell suddenly opened by itself, and a note fell in front of him. Tancred's cloudy eyes, which had no spirit at all, suddenly moved, and he reached out to take the note and read it. After a moment, his face changed, and he suddenly stood up and rushed out of the prison to confront the person in charge. But soon, he calmed down again and decided to take advantage of the fact that a large number of family members were out to find evidence first, and then he could gain the trust of others to put things right. At the same time, in a 3-story building in Jinchang, a small town 300 miles east of Human, a member of the Gasha family who stayed behind also received a note which informed him that Lord Gallad had been secretly contaminated by the blood moon. Seeing that this vampire with the strength of mana calmly hid the note and began to look for evidence, Duan Mingsu hiding in the dark nodded with satisfaction and was complacent about her vision of choosing people. The task that Zhao Chen assigned to her before was to remind these vampire families that there were blood moon ghosts in their homes. The Camilla family should have been informed as well. Now the only one left is Vlad. TSK, without the information provided by Mr. Chen, I have to find it myself. Chapter 315, Falling Moon City. It was July, the wind was like fire, hot and dry, the sand was like iron, and it hurt when it blew on the face. The Wuguan caravan and the alien camp team were cautiously moving forward in the semi-desert area between Human and Black Wine Fort. Feng Kang, Zhao Zhen and other fire gun team walked with more than 10 elites from the alien camp, while Moqiu and Ning Meng sat in the carriage. Feeling the wind getting stronger and stronger, like a knife shaving his face, Feng Kang covered his face with his hand and suggested, the wind is getting stronger and stronger. It may be a precursor to a sandstorm. I remember there is an ancient city ruin not far ahead. Let's go there to take shelter temporarily. Brother Cairo, what do you think? He has walked along the trade road between Human and Dunhuang with the caravan several times, and is quite familiar with this area. Kyozi, the captain of the team wearing a white uniform, looked up at the position of the sun, then nodded and said, it's getting late. It's really hard to reach the next post station before the sun sets in this wind. At this point, he consulted his subordinates for their opinions. After most of them agreed, he called Yao Hua, who was chatting with Moqiu beside the carriage, and asked, what do you think? I'll listen to the captain. Yao Hua, who was covering her face with a white scarf and only showing a pair of strange pupils, nodded in response. Next, while directing the others to turn around, Yao Hua rode back to the carriage and smiled and asked Ning Meng and Moqiu who were lying by the window, Master Remo, Miss Ning, do you know the origin of the ruins of the ancient city in front? I don't know. Ning Meng shook her head and asked curiously, Sister Hua, what's the story there? It was called Loi City more than 8,000 years ago. It was once the capital of a small foreign country. This small country also prospered for a while due to its excellent geographical location. But unfortunately, after the end of the ancient times and the disappearance of the hundreds of countries in the western regions, this small country lost its geographical advantage. In addition, in the subsequent melee between the princes, it fully supported the Zhao Song dynasty and even sent 2 princesses to be concubines of Emperor Tezu of the Zhao Song dynasty. This led to its eventual destruction. While Yao Hua was talking, her eyes intentionally or unintentionally swept over the young Ning Meng. Was this small country destroyed by Emperor Gaozu of our dynasty? Moqiu was interested and asked. Yaohua shook her head and said, not so. It was the wife of Emperor Tezu of the Zhao Song dynasty who destroyed this country. The name of this queen of the Zhao Song dynasty is no longer known, but her strength is extremely terrifying. It is rumored that the flesh and blood souls of tens of thousands of people in Luo City were completely refined into elixirs in an instant. So this ruin is not like other ancient cities, where there are vengeful spirits. It is extremely clean, and is the best place for traveling merchants. However, there are also rumors that, although the ruins of Luo City are usually safe, they will turn into the most terrifying strange domain on the night of the blood moon, and even the monks with supernatural powers will find it difficult to escape. But it is difficult to tell whether this rumor is true or not. After all, the blood moon has not appeared in the human area for hundreds of years. When the few people were chatting happily, the caravan had arrived at the edge of the ruins of Luo City. Although Luo City is the capital of a country, it has experienced 8,000 years of wind and sand, and there are not many buildings that have not been wiped out now, or only those palaces reinforced with special materials are relatively intact. Before the arrival of the caravan, another team had already settled in the ruins. They had more than 20 people, both men and women, young and old, and the only thing in common was that they all had Western features in their appearance. The leader of this group was a young man with a high nose and deep eyes. His eyes swept over everyone in the caravan and the alien camp team, and finally fell on the carriage. But at this time, seeing the existence of other people in the ruins, the members of the fire gun team also raised their guns. Who are you? We are salt traders, and we come here to avoid the wind and sand. What about you? We are merchants from Human, subordinates of Master Chen, and we are also here to avoid the wind. In that case, there are many empty houses over there, you can take them yourself. Thank you. After the two sides confronted each other for a while, Feng Kang took the initiative to step forward and talk to the taxi man, which led his team members to slowly go to the intact houses on the other side of the ruins. Captain, those people just now didn't look like salt traders at all, but they didn't look like horse bandits, and I don't know where they came from. A member of the alien camp reported to Kaozi in a low voice. Kaozi nodded solemnly, and their strength will not be too low. Although it may not be aimed at us, we must also strengthen our vigilance tonight. Yes, Captain. The team member responded in a low voice. On the other side, Zhao Zhan, the commander of the fire gun team, suddenly shuddered, thinking that there was something unclean hidden in this ruin. In a building at the edge of the ruins, the painterly Wei, with a high nose and deep eyes, observed through the window and ordered. The movement of this team of musketeers vaguely conforms to a certain formation, and it is indeed not to be underestimated. Let's wait until nightfall before taking action. On a sand dune outside the ruins, the captains of the other two teams of the alien camp stared at Kaozi and others who had settled down with the help of a telescope. After a moment, he also ordered his men, take action after nightfall. Chapter 316 Blood Moon Night. In a relatively intact building in the ruins of Luo City, Feng Kang was patrolling back and forth with a big axe. Although Zhao Zhan had arranged for members of the fire gun team to take turns to watch the night, and also deployed secret sentries and snipers in several dangerous locations, for some reason, Feng Kang always felt that tonight would not be peaceful. This was not because his inspiration had greatly improved, but a natural feeling, which was hard to explain, that it really enveloped his heart and lasted for a long time. He didn't know why, and it was difficult to say it out loud, so he could only strengthen his vigilance secretly. Zhao Zhan, who was standing next to him, actually had a similar feeling as him, but he only vaguely noticed it after entering the ruins of this ancient city. As a cultivator of the true key realm who had cultivated spiritual perception, Feng Kang quickly discovered Zhao Zhan's abnormality, so he took the initiative to approach and said, "Old Zhao, you look very nervous." Zhao Zhan glanced at him, and instead of answering directly, he corrected him. "You are Zhao Chen's senior brother, you should call me Uncle Zhan. I'm talking from Ruxiang's side," Feng Kang said with a shy face. Senior brother Feng has always been obsessed with Lin Ruxiang, the housekeeper of the martial arts hall, but unfortunately the beauty ignored him. Zhao Zhan obviously knew this, and glanced at him and said, "Let's talk about it, when you really become Lin Ruxiang's husband." With this bickering, the tension and sense of crisis in the hearts of the two dissipated a lot. Zhao Zhan then spoke carefully. This loyal city is very weird. As soon as I stepped into this land, I felt a faint malice against me. Feng Kang frowned and murmured, I didn't feel any malice, but I just felt that something unexpected would happen. Could it be that the people who targeted Ning Meng are about to take action? Zhao Zhan asked in a low voice. Maybe, but I'm not worried about those people. It seems that Master Remo and Ning Meng are already my junior brother Chen's people, so he has a backup. The unexpected I mentioned refers to the real accidents that junior brother Chen cannot control. Feng Kang said solemnly. Zhao Zhan glanced at him again. What you said is very superstitious. I also know that there is no basis for it. Forget it. The sun has set, and there is no way to move now. We can only deal with it as it comes. Feng Kang changed his usual cynicism and sighed. By the way, the demon flower beside Captain Kaio is very suspicious. Not only did she deliberately approach Ning Meng, but she also took the initiative to say some irrelevant words. I don't know what her intention is, Zhao Zhan said, after scanning several members of the alien cam team. We don't need to care about her. Captain Kaio probably knows something about it. Feng Kang smiled and said. Over the official road leading to Shuzhou, two streams of light flew past one after the other. The one in front was a sword light, which was transformed by Li Yunfeng's patron saint, Ling Lao, and the one chasing closely behind was naturally France Li, the outer sect deacon of the flower god sect who had lost face at the human wharf. Because Ling Lao was seriously injured by the 100 Flowers book before, he still hadn't recovered at this time, so the sword light was dim and the speed had dropped a lot. He was about to be caught up by France, who was driving a flying shuttle magic weapon. Old thief, this time I will grind you to ashes. Hearing the voice behind him that disturbed his consciousness, Ling Lao showed bitterness on his face. He felt that he had been badly cheated by the mission of the Cheyenne treasure mirror. If this goes on, let alone revenge for his son, he might even lose his life here. No, I must hold on, no matter what. Elderling gritted his teeth, and even overdrawn his foundation, trying to speed up his sword. But suddenly, Elderling stopped flying, because France, who had been chasing him in his consciousness, disappeared without any warning. Flying at night, encountered the strange domain. But as a supernatural power, even if he encounters the strange domain, he should be able to escape instantly. It has always been like this before. Ling Lao looked around in confusion, and suddenly realized something, and hurriedly raised his head to look at the sky. He saw the moon rising in the sky, which was silver and bright the previous moment, and was stained with a layer of crimson the next moment, as if it was stained with blood, bright red. Between heaven and earth, there was suddenly a mysterious and evil atmosphere. The blood moon is coming, and the strange domain is hard to leave. Ling Lao muttered. Even though this was a good opportunity to get rid of France, he did not dare to continue to control the sword light, but fell to the ground, dug a hole in the ground with his natal flying sword, and drilled in. Human County City, in a western building in the south of the city. Tankid, who successfully collected evidence, summoned a group of Camilla family members who stayed behind, and blocked the person in charge in the secret room, where the blood moon was worshipped. Charlie, you actually surrendered to the blood moon. Several masters of the Camilla family who were skeptical about what Tankid said were furious. The person in charge, Charlie, just looked at them calmly and whispered, "What do you know? The ancestor and the blood moon are one and the same. There is no difference between being loyal to the blood moon and being loyal to the ancestor. How dare you slander the ancestor like this?" The Camilla family master was even more angry and was about to scold his heresy. But he was stopped by Tankid. The bearded taxi man said coldly, "He has been secretly polluted by Katie, his mind has been distorted, and it is impossible to communicate. The moon worship cult is really omnipresent." The person in charge, Charlie, showed surprise on his face when he heard this, and asked back, "Do you know that it was Katie who made me know the real ancestor? You should not have known this in the morning. Who passed the information to you? You don't need to know this. After we catch you, we still have to go to Dunhuang to capture Katie. So, please surrender." Tankid narrowed his eyes and was about to ask the 3-level official wizards to take action. But at this moment, Charlie's face showed a strange smile. Seeing this, Tanki's heart was alarmed, but before he could take any action, the bright moon that originally shone into the room from the window was stained with a layer of bright red, showing a bit of weirdness and blood. The next moment, Charlie let out a roar that was not like a human, and his body suddenly expanded. As his body expanded, his breath became extremely terrifying. At the same time, in the Garsha family residence in Jinchang, Lord Garland was also facing the accusations of his clansmen, but he was less polluted, and his cognition had not been greatly deflected. However, as the blood moon appeared, another will in his body grew rapidly, controlled his body, and attacked his clansmen. The same thing happened in Dunhuang, Zhanghai, Shengquan, Yinshan. At the moment when the blood moon appeared, all kinds of terrifying monsters emerged in cities large and small in Ganzhou. Some of them only have the strength of Gangsha, but a few have reached the level of divine power, and there are also phantoms of 2 high-level beings who have descended from the air with the help of the blood moon. Chapter 317 Chapter 316 Malayan Dragon Roar. In a mansion somewhere in Dunhuang, the middle-aged man who used his position to deceive the alien cam team to chase Kyozi was completing the great harmony of life with Katie. A layer of crystal light burst out from his body, causing his head and body to expand and expand. Bang! After expanding to the limit, he exploded with a bang and blew Katie into pieces, but the souls of the two people suddenly rushed out of their bodies, tightly entangled together, and then turned into an extremely terrifying monster under the moonlight. The monster was 3 or 4 stories high, shaped like a huge illusory flesh ball with various reproductive organs extending from the surface. Blood egg. The first time he felt the evil breath coming, the Feng family Dangsa and Zenran, who was still staying in Dunhuang, flying snow fairy Fengking appeared in the night sky, and after recognizing the origin of the monster, his face suddenly became ugly. Soon, another figure in white flew to Fengking's side under the wings condensed by frost. Greetings, Elder. The man in white first bowed, then looked at the flesh ball that was still expanding below him, and lost his voice in horror. What is this? This is the blood egg of the moon worship cult. It will only appear on the night of the blood moon. It is rumored to be a follower created by the blood moon. Fortunately, this blood egg is not fully prepared at the moment. It looks like it has only just reached the Dangsuan level. After Fengking explained briefly, he glanced at the chaos caused by other polluted people in the city, and ordered, while its immortal state has not yet manifested, you should leave here quickly and clean up other threats. I'll take care of this here. Remember, seal and restrict them first. Don't force to kill those monsters. They have the attribute of immortality under the blood moon, unless there are targeted means. Otherwise killing them will only make them more and more violent. As a magical monk stationed in Dunhuang, the man in white responded solemnly, yes. Then, he bypassed the huge meatball below, and flew to another battlefield, where a fierce battle had already broken out. Fengking just made a hand seal after her own magical power left, and a female phantom wearing a grey and white dress, dignified and beautiful, but with slender and sharp ears, instantly appeared behind her. This is the snow demon Dharma image she condensed, after advancing to Dangsun. As Fengking pointed downward, the snow demon Dharma image also vibrated its long sleeves, and countless snowflakes turned into sword energy and shot rapidly towards the meatball. This third grade magical power of the Feng family's flying snow divine sword Sutra snow drifting in the world is in the hands of a Dangsuan monk. The power is simply not comparable to ordinary magical powers. But the flesh ball, whose color was getting darker and darker under the moonlight, did not respond, and let the sword energy transformed from flying snow hit it. But the next moment, its body suddenly became empty, stained with light red, and turned into a hazy moonlight. The moonlight was instantly broken, and dissipated on the spot like mercury falling to the ground. Sure enough, it's not that easy. Fengking sighed, and her figure also turned into snowflakes and dissipated, and the bloody flesh ball was quickly outlined at the place where she was just now. Fairy Fixu was indeed knowledgeable and experienced. The moment the flesh ball turned into moonlight, she sensed the danger in advance and took the lead in escaping the fate of being embraced by the flesh ball. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll give birth to a child for it. No, a little monster. Fengking, who reappeared, had to be serious, and sacrificed the Feng family's inherited magic weapon, flying snow sword formation map. In an instant, snowflakes fell over Dunhuang, which was at the end of June. At the same time, the remaining supernatural powers in the big cities of Ganzhou, such as Zangai, Yumen, Yinshan, and Shenquan, also fell into fierce battles with the monsters brought by the blood moon. The world became even more dangerous. Even if the supernatural monks were trapped in the strange domain that suddenly increased, it was difficult to get out for a while. Against this background, a multi-party melee had broken out in the ruins of Loi City in the desert for a long time. At first, the horse bandits who were hiding outside the ruins and the two captains of the alien camp took the lead in attacking Kyozi and others. Then, hearing the noise, Levi, who thought that other vampire families wanted to snatch the Son of Prophecy, immediately led the retainers of the Garsha family to join the war. Then, the people organized by the Camilla family stabbed Levi and others in the back to prevent them from getting the Son of Prophecy. Feng Kang raised the axe in his hand and fought hard to repel a master of refining with a western face. Before he could breathe a sigh of relief, a horse bandit attacked from behind. The evil wind suddenly blew up, and Feng Kang had no time to dodge. Fortunately, at this time, a bullet flew from nowhere and sank into the tip of the bandit's eyebrow. Bang! With the delayed gunshot, the bandit fell down. Feng Kang was stunned for a moment, but he didn't have time to think about it, so he continued to use his axe to force back the enemies who wanted to approach the firearms. On the other side, Moqiu was like a ghost, flying between bullets and enemies. The palm method that had been cultivated to the Black Cloud realm was even more poisonous and misty, which was very suitable for this kind of melee situation where all the enemies were. However, Feng Kang and Moqiu's kung fu could not reach the level of suppressing the overall situation. After a long time, even with the support of the firearms, it would be inevitable that there would be flaws. Once they were gone, the firearms alone would be difficult to support. Just as Moqiu and Feng Kang gritted their teeth and waited for Zhao Chen to rescue them, the bright moon hanging high in the sky, which was cold, cool as autumn water, and dreamy, suddenly turned blood red, and it was weird and hideous. At this moment, the people who were fighting just now seemed to have noticed something, and they all stopped subconsciously and looked up at the sky at the same time. Then they were shocked to see a bloody giant hand that seemed to cover the entire sky pressing down from the sky, as if to press everyone in Loyal Ancient City to death. Moqiu, Feng Kang, Zhao Zhan, Kyozi, Li Wei and others tried desperately to escape, but what made them desperate was that at the same time they saw the giant hand, everyone's body had already escaped from their own control. They couldn't even close their eyes, let alone escape. The only exception was the little girl Ning Meng, but although she could move, her state at this time was also very wrong. Not only did her originally red eyes become more weird, but her back kept squirming, as if something was about to grow out. It seemed very painful, and the little girl's face was distorted because of it. Seeing that there was no hope of escape, Ning Meng's body changed again. Moqiu gritted her teeth, and then prayed to the Lord of the Star Chariot in her heart, praying that great being to bring down his divine power, to save herself and her apprentice. After becoming the servant of that great being, Moqiu had never dared to disturb him easily, for fear of angering that being, and causing herself to encounter an accident. But at this point, she could no longer care so much, because she felt that, even if Master Chen made some arrangements, he would not be able to solve the giant hand in the air. However, just as she finished her prayer, the loud dragon roar resounded through the night sky. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318, Strange Territory. I saw a huge head coming out of the clouds, with a cow's head, a donkey's mouth, deer horns and shrimp eyes. It was a real dragon. It raised its head and looked at the falling bloody palm. The body covered with blue-gray scales was still hidden in the clouds and in the deep darkness. It was unknown how many miles long it was. The surrounding evil and foul air was so thick that it seemed real and illusory, making the key warriors with vigorous blood feel the coldness from the soles of their feet. With just a glance, their souls were paralyzed involuntarily, as if they were facing the master who could control their life and death. The only good news was that the body that was completely unable to move under the influence of the bloody giant hand returned to its own control. But everyone still couldn't escape, because the paralysis of the soul also made their thoughts confused and their movements slow. Ayo. The real dragon opened its mouth and roared again. The invisible huge force poured out and collided with the falling bloody giant palm. An indescribable sound swept around with the collision, just like an infrasound wave. Although people could not hear it, they felt extremely uncomfortable. Even Zhao Chen, who had been hiding in the dark, was no exception. If it were not for his 5 immortal spiritual ki, especially the Huangdi Zongsu state, that could dissolve the external evil, this uncomfortable situation would have lasted for another breath or two. He was like this, let alone those ordinary ki and refining warriors in Luo City. Most of them fell into a state of unconsciousness under this shock, and their thoughts were solidified. Yes, Zhao Chen brought Zheng Qingyuan and the little black cat to the ruins of Luo City before nightfall, and planned to wait for someone to take the initiative, to ask for his protection in a critical situation, and then come out, to play the role of escort. Of course, he would not sit idly by and watch his family really fall into danger, so he used gunfighting skills several times before to rescue Feng Kang and Moqiu. And when the blood moon was in the sky and the bloody giant hand stretched out, in fact, there was no need for Moqiu to pray. He was also ready to ask the Zheng family protector called by Zheng Qingyuan to take action. After all, that was an attack at the Dangsuan level, and Zhao Chen and Zheng Qingyuan were also in danger. The moon worship cult is really generous. In order to crush Ningmeng, a small shrimp in the true key realm, they actually directly use the power of the Dangsuan level. Shouldn't they go from refining the orifices to mana, gangsha, and supernatural powers, one level at a time? Zhao Chen wiped his cold sweat and couldn't help but complain. This is not a story. Since the moon worship cult has decided to take action, they will naturally go all out. If it weren't for the existence of the barrier in Daksha, I estimate that the evil god would probably even send down the clone of the Shengsuan level. The black cat who turned into a black tiger and acted as someone's mount chuckled in the mother and child card. As soon as she finished speaking, the changes suddenly increased. Countless red lights appeared around the ruins of Luo City, and in an instant, they engulfed everyone in the city. Seeing this, the real dragon in the clouds above swung its tail and smashed the red light that was not completely closed, but was blocked by the giant hand in the air, and failed to do its best, leaving only a crack on the red light. After that, it had to fight with the giant hand with all its strength. After a dizzy spell, Zhao Chen found that the scene around him had changed, from the original ruins to a clean stone house. There were not many furniture in the stone house, only a bed, a table and a few simple shelves. On the shelves were pots, pans, and various daily necessities. The sun was high outside, and the sunlight shone through the windows, illuminating the entire house. If it weren't for the rigid voice prompt, Zhao Chen would have thought that he had entered the historical mist mission again. Where is this? How did I suddenly travel through space? And the environment here gives me a bad feeling also. Where did Qingyuan and the others go? Zhao Chen frowned and muttered to himself. At this time, the little black cat he had ridden before said, there are rules of heaven and earth here that are imposed by a kind of magical power. It's very abnormal. We may have been pulled into a strange domain. The female night gong had turned back into human form at this time, and opened her eyes, that can break illusions. Zhao Chen looked away, deliberately not looking at her, and only used the eyes of emptiness brought by the position of the talisman to look around. He spoke carefully, the imposed rules here seem to be different from the strange domains I have seen before. As he said this, he thought about it, and a wisp of spirit had entered the star chariot, and exchanged Wang Daoi out. As soon as this knight appeared, he turned into a divine wind, lifted the roof of the stone house, and rushed straight into the sky. But soon, countless rules were added to his body. If Wang Daoi had not been protected by the star chariot, Zhao Chen even felt that Wang Daoi's body would be torn to pieces at that moment. Even so, the summoning fee per second suddenly doubled. Zhao Chen saw this, and quickly ended the summoning. The punishment rules lost their target, and dissipated on their own. After vaguely observing this scene with the Dangshu eye, Zhao Chen breathed a sigh of relief, but his face looked ugly. Mystical power can't break through this weird domain. It stands to reason that such unstable rules in the weird domain can be interfered with even by the 9th grade magical power. It is not difficult to forcibly create a loophole or flaw. Otherwise, the magical cultivators would not ignore the taboo of traveling at night. Because today is the night of the blood moon, it is rumored that the blood moon may be one of the sources of the evil weirdness. It is normal for its ability to be enhanced under the illumination of the blood moon, Gong Yun explained calmly. But the fact that she became serious itself showed that the heroine was already very nervous. And Zhao Chen knew even more that, although she looked calm on the surface, she was already calling for help from her master in her heart. It's a pity that your master is in there now. Zhao Chen sighed secretly, then said calmly, I remember that there are usually various imposed rules in the strange domain. Only by meeting certain conditions, or creating contradictions in the rules, and letting it fall into chaos can we hope to escape. Yes, but the possibility is very low. Instead of counting on this, it is better to try to live longer, and wait for the Zheng family's Dangshuan outside to fish us out. Gong Yun sighed, then rolled on the ground, and transformed into a black tiger again. In this state, her defense and spell power are the strongest, and it is not unsightly to be naked in human form. Are there any imposed rules that are not clearly given? Seeing her turn back into a black tiger, Zhao Chen no longer had to deliberately avoid certain places. He quickly scanned the room, but found nothing. It was completely different from the one that Sister Hangsha had encountered before. As far as I know, some ghostly areas do have rules posted, but most of them require you to explore them yourself. And those posted rules may not all be true. It is quite normal to have one or two traps in them. On the contrary, the few words left by those who have fallen into this place before are more reliable. Gong Yun said through the mother-child concentric card. At this moment, the sky outside the house suddenly darkened completely, and bursts of low whimpering sounds were also heard near the stone house. Rule 1. Ghosts that come out at night and hide during the day eat people. Chapter 319. No ghost knocking on the door at midnight. In a palace with a complex structure but magnificent appearance, Feng Kang had just recovered from the sequelae of witnessing the Dharma appearance, so he quickly took an axe to be on guard, and carefully looked around. He found that Moqiu, Ningmeng, Zhao Zhen and the members of the fire gun team were all there, but the alien cam team guarding the flank was gone. Of course, the horse bandits and the group of taxi people who had fought with them before were also gone. Feng Kang, the unexpected thing you mentioned has come. Zhao Zhan, who had a scar on one side of his cheek, also recovered at this time, walked forward and smiled bitterly. We are probably trapped in the strange domain. As the captain of the fire gun team who protects various goods all year round, Zhao Zhan is no stranger to the strange domain. Although it is his first time to experience it personally, he has enough knowledge. What's the point of talking about this now? Fortunately, we have reinforcement outside. The most urgent thing is to try to survive. Huh. Feng Kang let out a light huff before he finished speaking, because he suddenly found that the layout of the palace he and his group were in was extremely similar to the architectural structure of the Falling Moon City, where they had settled before, but the decoration was gorgeous and all kinds of utensils were brand new. This strange domain seems to have restored the Falling Moon City before it was destroyed, Feng Kang reminded. Falling Moon City, it really is. Zhao Zhen's eyes looked around for a week, and he agreed with Feng Kang's opinion. Then he said uncertainly, I remember that Falling Moon City seemed to be the royal capital of a small foreign country, but why was it destroyed? He thought about it carefully, but couldn't remember it. At this time, Moqiu, who finally came to her senses, interrupted and said, this country assisted the Zhao Song dynasty during the chaotic war among the various countries more than 8,000 years ago. The king even sent 2 princesses to the Zhao Song emperor as concubines. As a result, the whole country was destroyed by the Song emperor's wife. At this point, she paused and added, this was told to us by Yao who were in the Iranian team before entering Loyal City. I don't know whether it is true or not, but she specifically said that there is a rumor that Loy City turns into a strange domain on the night of the blood moon. If you fall into the strange domain, if you don't have magical powers or even dance and rescue, it is almost equivalent to a desperate situation. At this critical juncture, you naturally can't hide anything and try to gather all the information together. Although MOQIU encountered strangeness for the first time, she had witnessed her father, Sun Sword Ma Guangming's experience of escaping from the strange domain from a sharing perspective. Yaohua. That woman is indeed problematic. She probably knew that the blood moon would appear tonight. Zhao Chen frowned, making the scar on his cheek look even more hideous. As far as I know, the general ghost domain will have a theme. Some are for playing games, some are for solving puzzles, and some are for achieving certain goals. I just don't know what type of falling moon city is. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone saw a page of letter paper appear out of thin air and fell into the hands of Ningmeng, who was still a little dazed. The letter paper was full of words, but only the first line could be read. Rule 1. Ghosts that come out at night and hide during the day can eat people. As for the subsequent content, it seemed as if it was covered with a layer of strange obstacles. Everyone could see and understand it, but when they wanted to further understand its meaning, they were blocked by something. At this time, Ningmeng, whose body had undergone abnormal changes under the illumination of the blood moon, gradually became empty in the eyes, and said in a delirious voice, "Wedding, wedding, wedding? Is it the wedding of Emperor Tezu of Zhao Song and the two princesses of Falling Moon City? Could it be that before the wedding, the country was destroyed by Song Tezu's wife?" Surprised, Feng Kang, Zhao Chen and others couldn't help but imagine a pair of sisters wearing wedding dresses and marrying their favorite king on the happiest day of their lives. As a result, before the ceremony began, they suddenly encountered a disaster and the whole country was wiped out. Their extreme emotions at that time were unimaginable. No wonder they became the carrier of weirdness. Of course, the royal bloodline of this small country may be special, so it can attract weird attention. Only MOQIU stepped forward to hug his apprentice and wake him up from that state of delirium. After a while, Ningmeng's eyes refocused, and he looked at his master in a daze and said, "What's wrong with me?" MOQIU breathed a sigh of relief, and when he was about to answer, the sky outside the palace suddenly darkened, and bursts of sobbing followed. Ghosts that come out at night and hide during the day eat people. Thinking of the words on the letter paper, everyone immediately raised their weapons and took full alert with the light emitted from the brazier in the palace. On the other side, the worshippers and retainers of the Gasha and Camilla families, who were on the streets of Loi City, as soon as they fell into the ghost domain, could no longer care about confronting each other. Because at the moment, when the sky suddenly turned dark, countless shrill ghost cries suddenly sounded, and all kinds of ghosts appeared, waving a strong yin energy, flying around the city, looking for blood food. The members of the two families exposed on the streets were naturally their first choice. If ordinary people encountered this situation, they would be eaten up in an instant. But fortunately, both the Gasha and Camilla families were the homes of Taxi sorcerers and practitioners. Painter Levy bit his finger directly, painted in the void with his own blood, and constructed a simple blood-colored cover to block the ghost's perception of the living. And a third-level official wizard of the Camilla family unfolded a pair of giant illusory wings like bat wings from his back to protect the other part of the people. But this could not solve the problem, because there were too many ghosts on the street, and neither the aura nor the perception could be completely blocked. Soon, groups of evil ghosts began to attack the magic of Levy and the others. In a simple camp, the alien camp team led by Kyozi had killed the horse bandits who attacked them, as well as the two alien camp colleagues behind the horse bandits. Kyozi's purple hair was stained with a lot of bright red blood, which made him look even more weird. After he took out a handkerchief to wipe his hair, he suddenly restrained Yaohua, who was covering her face with a white towel, and said in a cold voice, "Who are you? Where is Hua?" The incident happened suddenly, and the other team members had not reacted yet, and they heard the woman who was restrained by the captain giggled, "My captain, when did you find out?" Kyozi was too lazy to answer, and a purple flame appeared on his hand. This was his innate ability, Purple Fire. It was powerful, and not inferior to the second or third turn innate spells. It was also the reason why he could be the captain of an elite team in the alien camp. The so-called alien camp is an army composed of a group of people with innate or acquired superpowers. I'll ask you again, where did Hua go? Kyozi's voice became colder. The woman didn't care about the purple flame on Kyozi's hand at all. She just smiled and asked back, do you know what the next rule of ghosts come out at night and hide during the day to eat people is? I'll tell you. Before she finished her words, there was a dang 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 knock at the gate of the military camp. The second rule is, ghosts should not knock on the door in the middle of the night. The woman's voice sounded at the same time. Kyozi's pupils suddenly dilated, and the purple fire in his hand suddenly erupted, but he failed to stop the woman's last reply of please come in. Chapter 320 Symbol. In the stone house, Zhao Chen and Gong Yun, who had transformed into a black tiger, also heard a knock on the door after the sky darkened. Although they didn't know the rules yet, they didn't speak rashly. They just watched the evil spirits walking aimlessly on the street through the window. At first glance, they looked no different from ordinary people, and their bodies were almost solid, but they were surrounded by yin qi and their faces were gloomy and terrifying. Most of these evil spirits are at the level of true qi and refining acupoints. But the yin qi on them is not like ordinary ghost qi, but has a bit of the taste of yin demon, but it seems to be true or false. Is this Loi city related to the Shai and Mo sect in the past? Zhao Chen used the mother and child tungsten card to transmit the sound. Gong Yun didn't know much about this Loi city. She rarely collected similar information. Generally, when she needed it, she would either ask her sixth brother or exchange it with the master. However, she paid attention to another detail. The clothes manifested on these ghosts have the styles of many eras. It is very likely that they are transformed by people who have been swallowed by the strange domain for thousands of years. According to the characteristics of weirdness, this may have some symbolic meaning. Symbolic meaning, are outsiders or evil spirits? Then we are also outsiders. Why are we regarded as people by these ghosts? Zhao Chen frowned, stroked the broad back of the black tiger, and asked, do you know similar cases of weirdness? How can I know? Knowing weirdness, at most I can learn from the experience summarized by the predecessors, and it is impossible to show the details of the weirdness. After all, knowledge is poisonous. The clearer you understand it, the greater the probability of encountering it. Gong Yun paused after transmitting her voice and continued to analyze. Although I don't know what the imposed rules of this weirdness are, since there are ghosts at night, it is relatively safe during the day. Well, the rules here are chaotic, and the alternation of day and night should be very frequent. Before she finished her words, the outside of the stone house suddenly became bright, and the shrill whimpering sound disappeared completely. Seeing this, Zhao Chen narrowed his eyes, made a quick decision, and flew onto the back of the black tiger, letting it carry him out of the door. The streets were bustling with people. There were people selling calligraphy and paintings, monkey shows, all kinds of food, and so on. This prosperous scene caught the eyes of the man and the tiger, which surprised them. However, Zhao Chen and Gong Yun knew very well that these were just false images created by the strange domain, so they did not dare to talk to anyone casually, so as not to violate the rules and violate taboos. They just walked forward along the street, looking at the accessible buildings around them, and eavesdropping on the conversations of people on the street. I heard that the king has decided to surrender to Zhao Song, and marry the two princesses to the Lord of Song as concubines. Although the two princesses are beautiful, they both have western looks, silver hair and red eyes. Doesn't the Lord of Song mind? Maybe the Lord of Song likes this? Don't talk nonsense here. Although most of our loyal people are from the east, the top leaders are all of western blood. I heard that the Lord's family are all members of a pure-blooded warlock family. Before the western regions turned into an endless desert, geniuses like the two princesses were to be sent back to the west, to be trained to become powerful warlocks. That makes sense. I heard that Lord Song is a great man of his generation. At a young age, he is already a real person of the second level of Dongsun, and he may very likely enter Shengsun in the future. I guess only geniuses like the two princesses can catch his eye. Luo City is not small, almost the size of a district in Human County. It could be considered a huge city more than 8,000 years ago. The stone house where Zhao Chen and Gong Yun were before can only be regarded as a remote place on the outskirts of the city, but as soon as they walked through a street, the news about the king of Loi defecting to Zhao Song had already filled their ears. Obviously, this was the information deliberately revealed by the strange domain. I remember that Emperor Tezu of Zhao Song never had concubines, but only one queen. Maybe the theme of this strange domain is related to the king marrying his daughter. Gong Yun thought as she carried Zhao Chen forward. Don't say maybe. I already know what the theme of this strange domain is. Zhao Chen sighed when he heard her voice. He was not just eavesdropping on the conversation just now, he also divided his mind to enter the star chariot, communicated with MOQIU, and knew about Ning Meng's muttering. What's the theme? Gong Yun asked curiously. Wedding. Zhao Chen stroked her satin-like black hair and responded with a smile. Wedding. It seems that something happened to the two princesses before the wedding, and even the Luo kingdom was destroyed and turned into a strange domain. Gong Yun was also very smart and quickly deduced the general situation. She only asked puzzledly, who on earth ruined this marriage and was so cruel as to destroy the entire country? For a small country, one city is a country. Seeing the question, Zhao Chen curled the corners of his mouth and deliberately said, why don't you ask the master for the answer? After all, after learning from MOQIU that the culprit for the destruction of the city was Lord Song's legal wife, Zhao Chen said, he knows the answer to this question. Gong Yun, who thought that the other party did not know the information, also had the same intention, but she had contacted the other party several times before and had not received a response, and she was not sure that the master would answer this question. Because of her close relationship with the master, she did not need any ceremony. As long as a soul power was sufficient to support her, she could directly establish a certain connection with the other party. Of course, the premise is that the master agrees. After a moment, Gong Yun's excited voice came through the mother and child concentric card. Master responded to me. He told me that it was the queen of Emperor Zhao Song who destroyed Luo City, and her true identity was the founder of the heavenly demon sect. True Lord Moyan. No wonder he is so cruel. It turned out to be this person. Upon hearing this, Zhao Chen, who had just responded to Gong Yun through Xingcha, showed a look of surprise and said with emotion, so that's the case. No wonder the yin energy of those ghosts tends to be yin demons, but they are only similar on the surface. The foreign evil spirits symbolize the true Lord Moyan. At this point, Zhao Chen suddenly paused, then patted the black tiger's butt and made it quickly run into a nearby tea house. Almost at the moment when the man and the tiger closed the door of the tea house, the sky was completely dark. At the same time, MOQIU, Feng Kang and his party in the palace had successfully spent 2 days and 1 night, and the third rule on the letter paper in Ning Meng's hand could also be interpreted: 6 days and 7 nights to reach the palace. Chapter 321 Overturning the Table. In the palace of Luo City, MOQIU, Feng Kang, Zhao Zhen and others looked at the letter paper in Ning Meng's hand, which gradually revealed more content, and couldn't help but fall into deep thought. The previous 2 days and 1 night, because the rules prompts came in time, they all spent them safely. Feng Kang even plucked up the courage to walk out of the palace for a walk when the second day came. However, the palace city is too large, and the daytime time in the strange domain is too short. Even though Feng Kang has good light skills, he only explored a few buildings around the main hall. 6 days and 7 nights to the palace. Does this sentence mean that the so-called wedding will be held on the 7th night? And those who fall into this strange domain, if they cannot reach the palace before the 7th night, will they sink here forever? Then we are really lucky to be here from the beginning. The little girl Ning Meng tried to analyze. She had been in a daze since the blood moon came, and only now has her spirit finally recovered a little. That should be the case, but we may not be lucky. The easier it is now, the more difficult it may be later. After all, although no one knows the cause and purpose of the weird thing, it likes to play with humans, giving hope while bringing deeper despair. This is real. Zhao Zhan, who had the most experience at the scene, said in a deep voice, so there have always been very few people who can escape from the weird domain on their own, and most of the survivors have been rescued by monks with magical powers. Hearing this, everyone was silent for a while. Only the roars and whimpers of the evil spirits outside the palace were heard from time to time, until Feng Kang spoke up to break the atmosphere. Holding a wedding at night means that on the 7th night, or even earlier, the bridegroom will come in. At that time, regardless of whether there will be other dangers at the wedding, those ghosts alone can take our lives, right? What do you mean? Ning Meng asked, puzzled. Ghosts shouldn't knock on the door in the middle of the night. Hey, what if the groom knocks on the door at night? Can we still prevent him from coming in? Then how can we complete the wedding? Feng Kang narrowed his eyes, as if he had guessed the strange arrangement. Don't forget, for Loyal City, the groom is also an outsider, and he is very likely to be a fierce ghost. At that time, if we don't open the door, the wedding cannot be completed, and we are afraid that we will all sink into this weird domain. And to open the door, we have to resist the invasion of the fierce ghosts. It's a dilemma. After listening to Feng Kang's speculation, Zhao Chen also added with a serious expression, and we only know from Ning Meng's mumbling that the theme of this strange domain is wedding, but the condition for leaving here may not be to complete the wedding. It is very likely that after we have tried our best to stop the fierce ghosts and let the wedding go on normally, we will be left here. Then what should we do? Ning Meng asked in amazement. I don't know, but it's only the second night now. We still have time to get more information. At this point, Zhao Chen glanced at Feng Kang on the side and asked, did you find anything when you went out to explore just now? Yes. Feng Kang swallowed his saliva and said with a somewhat grim expression, I heard a few palace maids chatting, saying that the two princesses live in Yuhe Palace and are preparing for their marriage, so I went to the so-called Yuhe Palace. But as soon as I approached, I sensed an extremely terrifying breath. My spiritual sense tells me that we will die as soon as we go in. Zhao Chen nodded and said, it seems that how to enter the Yuhe Palace and invite the two princesses out is the problem we are about to face. As soon as he said this, the sky outside the palace became bright again. Obviously, the third, no, to be precise, the second day has arrived. And on the letter paper in Ning Meng's hand, the fourth line of rules has also appeared. Wait until dawn in Yuhe Palace. After seeing this rule, Moqiu, who had been silent, prayed silently and relayed to Zhao Chen everything he had seen and heard in one night. Wait till dawn in Yuhe Palace. On the streets of Loyal City, Zhao Chen, riding on the black tiger Gongyan, silently recited this rule, thinking in his heart, this sentence should mean that you can't enter the so-called Yuhe Palace during the day, and you can only enter at night, right? But this is also very dangerous, because the distance from the gate of Yuhe Palace to the safe palace is not short. With the strength of Moqiu, senior brother Feng and others, it may be difficult to break through the blockade of the evil spirits at night. Well, Moqiu must tell them not to take risks. After all, let alone the danger at night, no one knows what the two princess brides are now. As his thoughts turned, Zhao Chen had entered the star chariot and sent instructions to Moqiu. And Moqiu quickly responded. Feng Kang and Zhao Chen are very self-aware and have decided to stay away from Yuhe Palace and explore other places first. After Zhao Chen sighed twice at the steadiness of his senior brother and uncle, he stopped being distracted and drove Gongyan to another street. This street does not lead to the palace, but to a residential area for merchants. In fact, if Zhao Chen, who has the supernatural monk assist trump card, really wants to go to the palace, he can get there in an instant, whether it is day or night. After all, even the ghosts at night can't stop the escape light of the supernatural monk. But on the one hand, Zhao Chen doesn't want to expose his trump card too early and be deliberately targeted by this weird domain. On the other hand, he and Zhao Chen have similar views. Weird is keen on playing with human emotions. It is unlikely that they can escape smoothly just by ensuring that the wedding is completed normally. In his opinion, the key to breaking the deadlock is most likely outside, not inside. In addition, by setting a time limit, forcing people outside the palace to rush to the palace regardless of everything, they ignore important clues. In the end, everyone finds that life was once within reach, but no one caught it. That kind of anger, regret, helplessness, and despair is what Weird really wants, right? Of course, if he and his companions were cautious enough to see through this layer, find clues on the road, and cooperate with his companions in the palace, and finally complete the wedding smoothly. At this time, the Weird might suddenly tell him that the completion of the wedding is the greatest horror. This hope instantly turned into a taste of despair. Maybe it was a great supplement for the weird. Combining the rules-based supernatural literature he had read in his previous life, Zhao Chen instantly made up several routines in his mind, but he didn't know which layer this weird was at. And his thoughts were not shy about passing them to Gong Yun through the mother and child concentric card, which made the female knight deeply feel that if Zhao Chen turned into weird, then mankind would really be hopeless. In order to keep the communication secret, Zhao Chen temporarily lifted the restriction of the mother and child concentric card, that it could only eavesdrop on the voice in one direction. Since we can't know which layer the weird is at, what do you think we should do? Gong Yun asked curiously. I decided to flip the table. Corn, so it's too late. Chapter 322, Chance Encounter and Wedding Dress. Turning the table over? Gong Yun was stunned, and even her steps were a little unsteady while running, and she almost threw Zhao Chen off her. Zhao Chen steadied himself, then responded with a smile. Following the other party's routine, and being led by the rules by others is the stupidest choice. I suspect that those who were able to escape from the weirdness in the past may have had a deeper connection with the weirdness without knowing it. They were at least, perhaps it was a conspiracy of the weirdness. So it's okay, if there is no other way. Since you have the spare power, you naturally have to turn the table over. Gong Yun thought for a while, and felt that what Zhao Chen said made sense, but where does the power come from? Didn't you let the magical monk who protected you try it before? Zhao Chen smiled mysteriously and said, just wait and see. As for now, we still have to run around in the city to paralyze the judgment of the weirdness here. Although many people think that weird is just a kind of evil that distorts the rules and has no wisdom. After all, it is rare for the carrier to be a living creature, and ordinary creatures cannot carry weird. But after experiencing the weird domain transformed by Miss Shen and the historical mist mission, Zhao Chen will not be careless, and would rather treat this weird as wise. As soon as the man and the tiger turned the corner, they saw a group of rather embarrassed taxi people. They were the retainers of the Camilla and Garsha families who had been attacked by evil spirits directly on the street. There were only 7 or 8 people left, and 2/3 of them were reduced. It can be seen how miserable the previous 2 days and 2 nights were. These people should be like me, without any hints about the rules. However, this weird domain is mostly related to the blood moon, and it is natural that the descendants of the silver moon are specially targeted. As for me, it was probably because I had allowed Wang Daoyi to forcibly break the rules and break out, which touched the taboo of the weird domain, so I was treated differently. As his thoughts turned, Zhao Chen had no intention of greeting these vampires. After all, these people had wanted to kidnap Ning Meng before. It was good enough that he didn't add insult to injury. How could he provide help? The retainers of the 2 vampire families did not notice Zhao Chen and Gong Yun, who had hidden their figures with the toad light ribbon. However, just as the 2 sides passed by each other, Zhao Chen suddenly stopped Gong Yun under him. Because he heard one of the women who covered half of her face with a cloth strip said, Levi, is the life path shown in your prophecy painting really near this street? Yes, the location in my painting is most likely the ready-made clothing store on the left. We need to find a wedding dress in it. Painter Li Wei pointed to an inconspicuous shop on the street and said, what is the relationship between a wedding dress and a life path? A tall but ferocious looking man asked coldly. He and Levi and others were obviously not from the same family, so his tone was very aggressive. I heard on the street before that the king was going to marry his daughter. I guess this wedding dress is what one of the brides needs? Levi answered uncertainly. Anyway, let's get the wedding dress first. The prophecy painting shows daytime, and I'm afraid the wedding dress will disappear at night. Another young man with a pale face, as if he had suffered a serious injury, paused here, then looked at the ferocious looking man and persuaded, nah, although we don't get along with the Garsha family, we are all vampires after all. At this point, only cooperation can have the possibility of escaping the strange domain. So, say less. Yes, Lord Lynch. The vicious man responded reluctantly. After ending their disagreement, the few of them carefully pushed open the door of the clothing store and entered with each other's protection. Zhao Chen, who witnessed their actions throughout, said thoughtfully in his heart, why is the princess's wedding dress in an ordinary clothing store? Although there are all kinds of absurdities in their strange domain, they will not arrange a plot props at will, and most of them are likely to have symbolic meanings. What does it mean that the wedding dress of a princess to be married in Loyal Kingdom is here? He didn't expect to get an answer, but Gong Yun's voice came through the mother and child concentric card. I guess this symbolizes that one of the two princesses has been to this store. It may not be a real store, maybe the clothing store itself is also a symbol. Well, but if the 7th night is really the wedding time, doesn't it mean that in real history, the princess came to this inconspicuous shop shortly before her wedding? Could it be a final farewell to her lover? After knowing that Zhao Chen had other plans, Gong Yun was no longer so nervous and was in a gossiping mood. After hearing what she said, Zhao Chen nodded seriously and said, "What you said makes sense." This attitude made Gong Yun stunned, and she said unconfidently, "I was just guessing. But you are the goddess of fortune, you must believe in your own vision." Zhao Chen laughed first, and then analyzed, if this so-called falling moon city did not have any special customs, weddings would generally be held during the day. So it is very likely that the day and night in the strange domain are the opposite of reality. In other words, if Levi prophecy is correct, the princess should not have come to this store during the day, but at night. I'm afraid it's not just a secret meeting and a farewell. Gong Yun asked with interest, what could it be? Are you planning to elope before your marriage? How should I know? But the fact that the princess's wedding dress can be found in this strange domain means that the princess does not want to marry Emperor Tezu of Song as a concubine. Zhao Chen realized something as he spoke, and added, or, this strange carrier thinks that the princess is unwilling to marry Emperor Tezu of Song. As a member of the 7 heroes of Emonan, although Gong Yun is lazy, she is not a brainless person. She immediately heard the unfinished meaning in Zhao Chen's words, and after a little thought, she said in surprise, it seems that this strange carrier can't be the princess and king of Loyal City? It can't even be anything in Loyal City. Zhao Chen said affirmatively, the queen of Emperor Tezu of Song is true to Lord Moyan. Since she has destroyed the country, she will do it cleanly. Even resentful spirits cannot be produced, let alone things that may become strange carriers. Zhao Chen, who had experienced the Wuiao Cave Heaven mission, already had some understanding of this great man who founded the demon sect and walked his own path. He knew that the other party was meticulous and would not leave any trouble unless he deliberately planned. It was too late in the middle of the night. I only wrote 800 words. 2T. At 1 o'clock. I will make up for it tomorrow. I owe 5 chapters. Chapter 323. Advancing step by step. I always feel that you are too sure. Although your guess is reasonable, there is no evidence. Gong Yun's suspicious voice came through the mother-child concentric card. When I was in front of Fei Meng before, I was just like you. She often knew everything suddenly. I have to say, this feeling is very good. As his thoughts turned, Zhao Chen smiled and responded, I just used some tricks in secret. Let me keep you in suspense and tell you later. Is it related to your preparation to overturn the table? Gong Yun asked thoughtfully. Yes. Zhao Chen nodded, and then saw several vampire family members at the level of refining orifices quickly walked out of the store holding a wedding dress covered with blood. Behind them, Levi, Nya, Linky, and the woman with half of her face covered each used magic to resist the attack of something. It was not until everyone left the shop and came to the sunlight and found that the things in the shop did not chase out that they breathed a sigh of relief, but they did not dare to stop and ran to another street at the fastest speed. Zhao Chen, who witnessed the whole process, patted the black tiger Gong Yun under him and said with a smile, let's go into that shop and take a look. Although Gong Yun didn't know what he was planning, he knew that this young Master Chen should have a plan. So even though he knew that the shop was very dangerous, he still carried him into the door of the shop. However, the shop was clean and tidy, and there was no sign of a fierce battle just now. Even the boss lady of the shop was still dozing off behind the counter and didn't notice that another customer came in. Seeing this, Gong Yun was a little surprised, but not surprised. After all, this is a strange domain. Even if his eyes that break illusions can't see through it completely, the scene is just an illusion after all. What are we doing here? Gong Yun just muttered to herself when she saw Zhao Chen jump off her body, walk to the counter and knock on the table. After the experience of the previous few days, Gong Yun has found that the two of them have a very low sense of presence in the daytime. Both pedestrians and residents in the city turn a blind eye to them, unless they actively create interaction like Zhao Chen is doing now. In contrast, they have a very strong sense of presence in the night. Any movement can attract a large number of evil spirits. Hearing the knocking sound, the proprietress seemed to wake up. She looked at Zhao Chen with a confused look and asked softly, "Sir, what do you want to buy?" Zhao Chen stretched out his mouth, revealing an ambiguous smile, and asked, "I wonder how much I want to buy you?" Another night came. In the palace of Loi Royal City, Zhao Zan, Feng Kang and others looked at the letter paper in Ning Meng's hand and read the next rule: the phoenix crown fell on Wutang courtyard at night. Looking at the words that he could suddenly understand, Zhao Zan turned his head to look at Feng Kang, frowned and said, "Wutang courtyard? I remember you just went there that day. Did you find anything?" Since he had just returned not long ago, Feng Kang shook his head without thinking and said, "No. That place should be considered a cold palace. Although I just searched it roughly, I didn't find anything. Could it be hidden in a secret passage or secret compartment?" Ning Meng asked. "It's not impossible, but I think it's more likely that the time is wrong. After all, it's nightfall Wutang courtyard." Feng Kang pointed to the line of text on the letter paper. "It's just like the previous Yuhe palace. You have to go in at night." Ning Meng puffed up her lips. "This is forcing us to fight for our lives. In the strange domain, it should be normal to be in danger at every step. To be honest, it's unexpected that we can stay in this palace safely for so long." Zhao Zan sighed. At this time, Feng Kang looked at Moqiu, who had been silent and was doing a live text broadcast for Zhao Chen, and asked carefully, "Master Remo, what did my junior brother say?" Shortly after entering the strange domain, Moqiu confessed to everyone that she could contact Zhao Chen privately, although no one was surprised. Moqiu's eyes first became extremely empty, but he quickly recovered and relayed Zhao Chen's suggestion. Young Master Chen asked everyone to wait in the palace. He will come to take us away from here on the 7th night. Feng Kang trusted his magical junior brother very much. He was relieved immediately after hearing this, and completely abandoned the idea of fighting hard before. Since there was a fight to hold, there was no need for him to take risks. But Zhao Zan was a little worried. He wanted to say something, but he hesitated. After a long while, he seemed to have made up his mind and said, "Master Remo, remind Chenna and tell him that Ning Meng is likely to be a descendant of the royal family of Loi Kingdom, and he and I are both of the royal blood of Zhao Song. I'm afraid this weirdness will not let us go so easily. Ning Meng is a descendant of the royal family of Loi Kingdom." Everyone actually guessed it. After all, from the words of the palace maids during the daytime, it can be learned that the two princesses who are about to marry Zhao Song Tezu have silver hair and red eyes, and look very similar to Ning Meng. But Zhao Chen and Zhao Zan are descendants of the Zhao Song royal family, which is beyond everyone's expectations. Even Feng Kang opened his mouth wide. After a long time, he said thoughtfully, "No wonder Brother Zhao felt malicious intent as soon as you stepped into the ruins of Loi City. It seems that this strange domain has always had resentment towards the Zhao family." At this time, Moqiu spoke again. Young Master Chen said that he knew it a long time ago and told us not to worry. She paused here and said in disbelief, "In addition, I just heard from young Master Chen that my father is actually the descendant of the Queen of Zhao Song." Hearing this, everyone was shocked, and a sense of fate arose spontaneously. Feng Kang touched his chin and said in confusion, "Speaking of which, I was also a little uneasy when I entered the ruins of Loi City before. Could it be that my ancestors had something to do with this small country more than 8,000 years ago?" On the other side, Zhao Chen, who had come out of the clothing store a long time ago, had entered a tavern, waiting for the end of the night. He stroked the satin-like fur of the black tiger and said with a smile, "The fate of this world is really amazing. It can always draw related people together. I guess it's not easy for it to set up this situation." As he said that, he briefly mentioned the situation in the palace to his little black cat. Gong Yun listened quietly, thought for a while and said, that's because in the Zhuanshan realm, the fate of everything was originally predetermined and could hardly be changed until the star god came to the world, which changed this situation. Star god comes to the world, fate is uncertain. The slogan of the Star Society originally said this. Zhao Chen had heard of this statement a long time ago, but it was the first time he felt it so deeply. However, he still wanted to give a thumbs up to the star god. After all, there is a strict law of cause and effect, and a world with completely predetermined fate is too hopeless. Without dwelling on this topic too much, Zhao Chen stroked the fur of the black tiger under his crotch again, which felt very good, and asked, what about you? What is your relationship with this falling moon country? Of course not. My destiny belongs to the master. Gong Yan answered as a matter of course. Time passed quickly as the man and the tiger chatted. After an unknown amount of time, the night ended quietly, and the day came again. And Zhao Chen once again learned a new rule from MOQIU through the star chariot, keep your promise, if you lose your wedding dress during the day. Hearing this, Zhao Chen couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth, and smiled. Those vampires found the wedding dress a day in advance. TSK, this weird game is well arranged. This rule, or hint is very vague. If it weren't for the prophecy of that westerner, it would be almost impossible to find the exact location. Gong Yun's voice came through the mother and child concentric card. It's not as clear as the previous sentences with time and place. Because the painter could predict the location so accurately, it was intentional by weird. Zhao Chen said meaningfully. So, you just said that those westerners got the wedding dress a day in advance, so it was fake. It was a trap of weird. It didn't want anyone to get the real wedding dress? Gong Yun asked a series of questions. No, on the contrary, the wedding dress is real, and it is actually the easiest key item to get. It's just that the reason it does this is to hide something more crucial. Zhao Chen said meaningfully. More importantly, Gong Yun suddenly realized something, and suddenly asked, so, the deal you just made with the shop owner? I was just testing it, but I didn't expect it to be just as I thought. Zhao Chen smiled mysteriously. This weird carrier is indeed not the two princesses of Luo Kingdom, nor is it anything in the country. It is not difficult for you and me to get out now, but as Uncle Zhen said, it will not let Ning Meng and Uncle Zhen leave easily. Therefore, the decisive battle on the 7th night is inevitable. We have to wait until all its rules are fully effective, and then we can give it a fatal blow to successfully get out. In the sky, there was no silver moon, nor blood moon, only a ray of cold light, illuminating a block shrouded in fog. The surrounding buildings were tall, decayed, and covered with dust, as if they had been abandoned for many years. The strange thing was that this seemed to be a corner of Huajiao Street in Luo City, but there was no resident, and it seemed unusually empty and dead. Tap, tap. The sound of running footsteps was heard, and a girl ran to the roof of a tea house, then suddenly jumped up and landed on the rooftop of another building. Behind her, there was a strong man, but he was a step slower, let out a scream, and was dragged into the darkness, and the sound quickly disappeared. Although there are not many ghosts in this block, they are extremely powerful, and almost all of them have magical powers. Yao, who are from the alien camp team, tried her best to rush into one building after another, quickly looking for a hiding place. She jumped into the open window of an inn, closed it with her backhand, and gritted her teeth to treat her wounds. Although her eyes were filled with tears, she was strong enough not to let them fall. What on earth happened? Why did I inexplicably lose my memory for a few days and entered the strange domain as soon as I woke up? The man just now seemed to be a horse bandit leader. Why was I with him? And where are the captain and the others now? As for why she realized that this was the strange domain, and how did she know the rules of this place? It's very simple. Her pair of strange eyes have the ability to read part of other people's memories. This is what she learned from the mind of the man behind her just now. However, this block seems to be different from other blocks in the strange domain. There is no blood moon shining at night, but the danger has increased several times. And no matter which direction you escape from, you will eventually return here. It can be said that entering this block is like being trapped in a dead end. Even the daytime has not appeared for a long time. There is no way to escape. All she can do is to struggle, suffer, and go crazy. According to her understanding of strangeness, this is the real purpose of this evil. What they want seems to be all kinds of irrational and extreme emotions of human beings. Otherwise, with its strength, it can easily kill everyone who strays here, and there is no need to arrange this large-scale game to give everyone hope. Yaohua had never really seen strangeness before, but she learned about the existence of such a terrifying thing from the files of the military. "Captain, where are you? Come and save me." Just when Yaohua was feeling desperate, a cold female voice suddenly came to her ears. "Do you need help?" Yaohua raised her head abruptly, and then she saw a fairy with a beautiful face standing at the window, casually killing the ghosts that wanted to rush in. Just when Yaohua was stunned, the fairy glanced at her and said, "You are lucky. The area corresponding to this block is currently the only exit of this strange domain. After all, this place has just suffered a blow from the Dangsuen existence. But I don't recommend you to go out now, because the battle off Dangsuen outside is not over yet. Even if you just take a look, you may go crazy and die immediately." After hearing this, Yaohua finally came back to her senses and said uncertainly, You are the Sakura Dragon Fairy?" "Yes." Zenkingan nodded. "Thank you for saving my life, Fairy." Yaohua bowed solemnly and expressed her gratitude. Zenkingan, while controlling the Emu 7 swords, to release thunder and lightning, lighting up most of the night sky, glanced at her again and said casually, "You really should thank me. After all, without my help to expel the evil that occupied your body, you have now blocked the only way out." Yaohua was stunned again, and then said in disbelief, "Fairy, are you saying that the reason I lost my memory for many days is that I was possessed by an evil spirit?" Chapter 324, Gift and Dowry. "Fairy, are you saying that the reason I lost my memory for so many days is because I was possessed by a demon?" Yaohua was stunned and said in disbelief, "You know, to be called a demon is at least at the level of supernatural power. How could she be so worthy as to attract such a being?" From the moment you got the pair of eyes, you have been marked by the followers of the blood moon. It can send down its spirit to attach itself to you at any time if it wants." Zenkingan responded expressionlessly, "Using external forces always has a price." "I see. But I had no choice at the time. I'm not like you, the fairy, who was born in a noble family and could not buy the Danding Xianzang refining elixir. I could only use some materials of unknown origin." Yaohua smiled bitterly and did not dwell on this issue anymore. Instead, she asked, "Fairy, you said that this block is the only exit of the weird domain?" Zenkingan nodded slightly and said, "Yes, this space was created by the elders of my family with the power of the profound cave, so the weirdness would close it off, and even move a prop originally placed here to another place to avoid being discovered by the cultivators trapped in the weird domain. And the evil that possessed you, like this weirdness, is closely related to the blood moon, so it controlled your body, separated from your captain, and took the initiative to come here to block the gap. Unfortunately, it is no match for me." Yaohua just watched the Sakura Dragon Fairy unleash thunder and smash the red-eyed ghosts that had chased her to nowhere to go, and turned them into ashes, and felt that her words were so convincing. After being stunned for a few seconds, Yaohua suddenly thought of something and asked quickly, "Then, how should the captain and the others get out? Can I bring them here?" Zenkingan shook her head and said, "This block has been sealed off by the weirdness, and it is currently in a state where you can enter but not exit. I have no problem with the power of magic power, but once I leave here, this gap is likely to be moved, and then even I won't be able to find it back." Seeing Yaohua's face darken, Zenkingan kindly comforted her, "But don't worry, he is in there, and will bring everyone out." "Him?" Yaohua looked at Zenkingan blankly. Zenkingan's lips curled up slightly, like ice and snow just melting, revealing a beautiful smile. "You should have heard of him. Bloodsword Prince Zhao Chen." Bloodsword Prince Zhao Chen? After the fourth day arrived, Kyozi, the captain of the alien cam team who had finally fought his way into the palace, showed an expression of disbelief on his face when he listened to the reasons why Zhao-zan, Moqiu, Fenkang and others did nothing. These people had the letter paper with the complete rules in their hands, but they didn't take any action and just waited for others to rescue them. Moreover, no matter how famous Zhao Chen was, or how great his potential was, he was only at the level of refining orifices. What use could he be in the strange domain? Instead of relying on him, it is better to rely on the dunks and real person outside. Now they should work hard to save themselves. Taking a deep breath, and trying not to swear, Kairozi looked at Ning Meng, who was holding the rule letter paper, and looked obviously similar to the princess of Loy country. He said carefully, "Miss Ning, what are the rules of this day?" Ning Meng's red eyes looked at him, and she said crisply, "The bride price is required to enter the moon court. The bride price is required to enter the moon court." Kairozi's Hao frowned. The moon court is easy to understand. It should refer to the palace of Loy City. But where is the bride price? We didn't see it when we came in just now. As he said that, he turned his head and glanced at several of his team members. One of them immediately understood and went out at a very fast speed, running to the various gates of the palace to investigate. He was very fast, almost as fast as the average man among who didn't have flying spells. Obviously, his supernatural power was in his legs. About 2 minutes later, the man returned to the main hall and shook his head to Kairozi and said, "Captain, there is nothing at the gate of the palace." Nothing. Kairozi frowned even deeper at this time, and couldn't figure out what this sentence "the bride price is required to enter the moon court" meant. At this time, Moqiu, who had been silent all the time, suddenly asked, "Captain Cairo, you said before that the Yao who were in your team was replaced and deliberately led the evil spirit into the house where you were at the beginning. Then how did you escape? How did you escape?" Kairozi glanced at the martial arts Jamona who was said to be able to communicate with Blood Sword young master Zhao Chen, and replied thoughtfully, "My superpower purple fire is naturally able to restrain ghosts, and each member of our alien camp has unique skills and cooperates well, so we can break through the encirclement and hide in safe houses." Moqiu's eyes were empty for a few seconds, and then he said, "If those ghosts were only at the refining level, what you said would be fine. But there were many evil spirits at the manor and even Gangsha levels on the first night, and even the Taxi wizards with several levels of mana lost more than half. Except for Yao Hua, no one in your team died, which is unreasonable." Kairozi had already seen that Moqiu was asking the question on behalf of the Blood Sword young master Zhao Chen, and this question was indeed what confused him before, so he asked in return, "Then what do you think is the reason? Isn't it our good luck?" "Maybe it's good luck." Moqiu was silent for about half a minute before continuing. "Do you think there is a possibility that your team is the bride price for the princess?" Everyone was stunned when they heard this, and then collectively cast their eyes on the members of the alien camp team, all of them revealing a look of sudden realization. The bride price is to enter the moon court. Their team is the only thing that has entered the moon court during the day. Kairozi obviously thought of this as well, and his face turned ugly, because he actually felt that this made a lot of sense. Everyone in your alien camp has superpowers, and this may be the reason why they can be the bride price. Moqiu's eyes were full of complexity when she said this, because she, like the members of the alien camp, also had superpowers. Since they were the bride price, what was she? Dowry? It didn't seem impossible. Feng Kang, who had the fastest brain, also realized this and murmured, "Maybe, after we entered this strange domain, we are no longer human. So, those palace maids during the day ignored us? Haha, we have been in this palace from the very beginning. Could they be some decorations when the princess got married?" Kairozi lowered his head and thought for a moment, then nodded and said, "It is indeed very likely. The place where our team first appeared is very likely the residence of the Zhao Song wedding team. It seems that Blood Sword young master is not only powerful, but also very wise." After a pause, he looked at Ning Meng and continued, "The only person among us may be Miss Ning, so only she has the complete rulebook." Moqiu's eyes became empty again at this time, and after a long while he said, "No, there is actually another person." "Who is it?" Kairozi asked. "The actor who plays the groom in the wedding." Moqiu replied. On the street, Zhao Chen, who was riding the black tiger leisurely, heard Gong Yun's voice below him. "Groom, who do you think will play the Zhao Song Tezu?" "Zhao Song Tezu?" Zhao Chen smiled and shook his head. You should also know that in the prototype event of this strange domain, Song Taezu did not show up at all. It was his queen who came forward and destroyed the country. Indeed. Then where is the groom here? Gong Yun asked, puzzled. It's very simple. Because someone wants to be the groom and wants to complete the wedding. Zhao Chen sighed and continued. What do you think the princess did if she really had a secret meeting with a man before the wedding? Gong Yun thought for a moment and replied, she should have gone to cut off the connection. Why? Zhao Chen asked with a smile. Because with the national strength of Luo Kingdom at that time, it was impossible to bear the consequences of breaking the appointment. The princess must have considered the overall situation. Even if she didn't think about the overall situation, someone must have asked her to consider the overall situation. Gong Yun guessed, fulfilling the promise, after losing the wedding dress during the day. Since you guessed that the day and night are opposite, the so-called fulfilling the promise is actually breaking the promise, right? Very smart. In fact, breaking the promise is a minor thing. I guess something more serious must have happened that night. Otherwise the wedding dress would not have become a bloody dress. Zhao Chen suggested. You mean, there was a guy who might be the lover of one of the princesses of Luo Kingdom who did something more drastic after the lover proposed to break up that night. Gong Yun's doubts were suddenly cleared up. So, the man ran away from Luo City, and when he came back, he found that the country and the princess had been destroyed by the Queen of Zhao Song. Only then, in despair, was he contaminated by the weirdness, and became its carrier? I'm afraid it's not that simple. Zhao Chen shook his head again. For the Queen of Zhao Song, the true Lord Moyan, to destroy a country, there must be something big wrong with Luo City, and finally it had to be wiped out. Gong Yun was stunned when he heard this, and then asked in surprise, isn't it because the queen was jealous that she destroyed the Luo Kingdom? Do you think a Shengsa and true lord would take action personally for such a small matter? What's more, if he was jealous, then when the king of Luo Kingdom had this idea, true Lord Moyan would have taken action. Why would he wait until the wedding day? This kind of thing is not good for the reputation of Zhao Song. Zhao Chen said this, and said with certainty, something must have gone wrong in Luo City at that time. It even attracted the weird. Otherwise, how could it be such a coincidence? Then what do you think will go wrong? Gong Yun asked curiously. Zhao Chen spread his hands and said, how should I know? Isn't this an investigation? Black Tiger turned his head and looked at Zhao Chen, who was leisurely looking at the surrounding scenery, and complained helplessly, you call this an investigation? Of course. Zhao Chen smiled mysteriously, deliberately leaned down, and whispered in her ear, and I have made some discoveries. For example, the sentence Phoenix Crown fell in Wutang Courtyard at night. Guess why the Phoenix Crown went to the cold palace like Wutang Courtyard? When the fifth night arrived, Kyozi, who learned that he and others were bride price, no longer hesitated, and rushed into the night with his team members, intending to look for the things mentioned in the previous rules. For example, Phoenix Crown fell in Wutang Courtyard at night, and waiting for dawn in Yuhua Palace. There are clear places that need to be explored. Moreover, this is already the fifth night, and the seventh night is very close. He is not like Feng Kang and others, who would trust Zhao Chen so much. Even if he acknowledges the wisdom of Blood Sword Young Master, he will not wait for his rescue. Destiny must be in your own hands. He was surrounded by purple fire, which made many ghosts retreat. However, this time, he who had been paying attention to the situation keenly discovered that there were indeed no magic power and Gangsha level ghosts around him. Is this a consideration for the bride price? Kyozi laughed at himself, and then his eyes became firm, leading his team members to Wutang Courtyard. After all, he had to stay in Yuhua Palace until dawn, so it was better to go to Wutang Courtyard to get the Phoenix Crown first. The purple flame formed a ring, burning all the ghosts who dared to approach. In the ring, the 8 team members each held a weapon, or emitted golden light, or emitted Sanskrit sounds, or activated firearms, and constantly killed the nearby evil ghosts. But the number of ghosts surrounding them did not decrease, but increased, and even vaguely formed a military formation. The only good news is that there are indeed no high-level ghosts. However, even if the evil ghosts let go, the members of the alien cam team will find it increasingly difficult to cope with it over time. If it were not for Kyozi's purple fire protection, I'm afraid they would have begun to lose members. Fortunately, the palace gate of the Wutang courtyard was already in sight at this time. The so-called Wutang courtyard is a cold palace of the Luo Palace. After coming to this vicinity, the number of ghosts has obviously decreased a lot. Kyozi was relieved, and finally had time to think about a question. That is, why is the courtyard with such a good meaning used as a cold palace? Is it because the king doesn't like Wutang or Phoenix? However, I remember that in the West, the vampire family and the Phoenix family have been allies for thousands of years. The Phoenix in the West is a kind of phoenix, and this loyal country should also be inseparable from the vampire family. After several people climbed over the wall and entered the yard, the ghosts that had been chasing them also stopped footsteps and seemed not to dare to approach this cold palace. Seeing this, Kyozi and other knowledgeable team members felt depressed, because such behavior often meant that there were more terrifying things lurking in this yard. However, the arrow was on the string and had to be shot, so Kyozi gestured to the team members to take charge of the response, and he plucked up the courage to come to the door of the main room of the palace, stretched out his hand, and pushed open the wooden door that was not locked. Chapter 325 Conspiracy and Reason. With a creak, the wooden door was pushed open a crack, and Kyozi let the purple fire cover his body. Then he jumped forward and entered the main hall of Wutang courtyard. While rolling, he had already used the spiritual sense to scan the main hall and found that there was nothing unusual here, except that the layout was simple. Only then did he stabilize his body, and while on guard, he made a safe gesture to the outside. Seeing this, the other team members covered each other and filed in, leaving only 2 people at the door to guard the retreat. Since this hall is not big and there are not many decorations, the alien cam team quickly searched it, but did not find the target object, so they had to turn their attention to the 3 rooms connected to the hall. That is, a master bedroom and 2 small rooms. Where would the Phoenix crown mentioned in the rulebook be? After thinking for a while, Kyozi decided to search the master bedroom first, which was the room where the master of this cold palace lived. Kyozi made a gesture, and 2 of his men immediately understood and followed his steps. The 2 were named Zhanglin and Han Qian, with 7 orifices and 8 orifices respectively, and they were the second strongest in the team after Kyozi. Zhanglin's ability was innate, and he could emit golden light from his body, which was somewhat similar to the golden light curse of the dragon and tiger sect. It could not only defend against certain attacks, but also had the miraculous effect of exorcising evil spirits and removing gloom, and was considered a top meat shield. Han Qian's ability came from the elixir he took when he opened his ear orifices, which allowed him to establish a connection with a demon in the Xinjiang temple, and he could hear things that others could not hear. As soon as the 3 entered the master bedroom, a thick fog gathered, changing the scene in the room in an instant. Zhanglin immediately opened the golden light on his body to the extreme, and Han Qian also took out his treasured life-saving talisman. However, Kyozi waved his hand and asked them to be patient and see what happened. He had a hunch that this weirdness seemed to want the people it captured to know about the past of Luo City. A graceful figure walked into the room. She had silver hair and red eyes, and a proud figure. Her appearance was not as good as that of Ningmeng, but her figure was comparable to that of Ningmeng's master Moqiu. This was obviously one of the princesses. The princess walked to the bed, glanced at the withered figure on the bed with contempt, and said coldly, "Are you still unwilling to hand over the magic weapon? The Lord of Song will marry my sister and me as concubines in a day or so. If I have magic weapon, I can also gain a better foothold in the harem of the Lord of Song." The person on the bed did not answer, but turned his head directly. The princess seemed to be angry. She stepped forward and lifted the collar of the skinny figure on the bed and said ferociously, "Do you still think that your father can come to save you? Haha, that's wishful thinking. Although father loves my sister very much, he can't wait to get rid of you. And now all the countries in the western regions have turned into an endless desert, and your connection with the Phoenix family has been severed. So, don't have any more delusions. Hand over that Phoenix magic weapon, and I will give you a quick death, so that you won't have to endure this endless pain." The figure on the bed was silent for a long time, and finally said in a hoarse voice, "Call Lanzi, my things can only be given to her." Hearing this, the princess's eyebrows immediately wrinkled, and she slapped the woman on the bed directly, making her curl up in pain. To my sister? Haha, do you want to know how my sister is doing now? The princess took out a handkerchief and wiped her hands, asking with a smile. The woman on the bed suddenly raised her head. Her eyes seemed to be burning with fire, and she asked anxiously, "What did you do to Lanzi?" "Nothing. It's just that she went to meet her lover in private before the wedding, and was stabbed by him. TSK, my father was very angry when he knew about this. If she had to please Lord Song, maybe she would have come here to accompany you," the princess said with a smile. "That person was also arranged by you?" The woman on the bed immediately saw through the truth. "That's right. I originally gave my sister a way out, but she was useless. She loved him so deeply, why didn't she want to elope with that person? So she could only enjoy the betrayal of her lover in advance. It's a pity. If she hadn't died, Lord Song might have tracked her down, and the knife would not have missed. But even so, my sister's spirit has collapsed. Do you think Lord Song will like her like this?" The woman on the bed closed her eyes, and 2 lines of tears flowed down her cheeks, but she quickly stopped crying. When she opened her eyes again, there was only coldness in her eyes. "In that case, as you wish, I will give you the Phoenix Crown. I only ask you to treat Lanzi well." The woman lowered her eyes, as if hiding something. "Very good. Very good. It should have been done a long time ago. Lanzi is my sister after all. I will definitely take care of her." The princess's face suddenly improved, and she said repeatedly. There was an undisguised pride in her tone. "The Phoenix Crown is my life magic weapon. I will take the initiative to let it condense, and you can take it from my chest after I die," the woman said lightly. At the same time, she also muttered to herself. But what she said specifically, Kyozi and others who had been watching did not hear clearly. At this time, the scene around them suddenly broke, and Kyozi and the other 2 also restored the appearance of the bedroom in front of them. On the bed, there was a tattered crown quietly placed, with a phoenix sculpture on it, and the pattern of the silver moon could be faintly seen, but it was a pity that it was severely damaged and could not be clearly identified. Kyozi let the purple fire wrap his palm, gently picked up the phoenix crown, and found that there was nothing unusual, so he breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he was about to ask Zhang Lin and Han Qian, who were traveling with him, to leave. But at this moment, something strange happened. A noble and terrifying demon bird appeared out of thin air. It had a chicken head, a swallow's chin, and was completely black. Except for the wrong color, it looked like a phoenix. It spread its wings, and countless black flames shot at Kyozi and others like bullets. "Run." Kyozi no longer cared about anything else, and immediately ran out at the fastest speed in his life. Han Qian and Zhang Lin beside him did the same. But after all, they were just refining orifice monks, and no matter how fast they ran, they could not be faster than the Black Phoenix. They could only watch the black flames hit their backs and sink into their bodies. The 3 of them were full of despair, and they were about to face the end of their fate. But to their surprise, after waiting for a long time, there was no pain. Kyozi and the other 2 came to their senses, and lowered their heads to check their bodies with their spiritual sense, but they did not find anything wrong with them. And the Black Phoenix that suddenly appeared also disappeared at this time. Everything seemed like a dream. Kyozi touched his chest. Although he didn't notice anything unusual, he always felt that there was something extra here. Han Qian and Zhang Lin also made the same action. They looked at each other, and finally Kyozi, as the captain, said, "It's not an illusion. That Black Phoenix must have given us something, and it is very likely the source of the changes in Falling Moon City." Han Qian also nodded and said, "We currently have too little information, and we don't know who this person in Wutang Courtyard is, so we can't judge what she gave us. But since it didn't take our lives immediately, it's just a trick played by Weird on us." Zhang Lin interrupted at this time. "One person's plan is short, 2 people's plan is long. Since we can't analyze it, let's go back to the main hall of the palace first and let the owner of the MO Pavilion tell Bloodsword Young Master. Since that Mr. Chen is capable, he should do more work." At this point, his tone unconsciously carried a hint of sarcasm. Who would have thought that the Captain Kyozi nodded seriously and said, "That's right. Let's do it." Han Kai and Zhang Lin were both stunned and asked in surprise, then are we going to the other princess's palace? No need to go. In our current state, if something happens, we will not be able to fight anymore. Why not rest in this cold palace until dawn? After another day arrived, in the main hall of Loyu Palace, Feng Kang, Zhao Zhan, Moqiu, Ning Meng and others not only waited for the alien camp team returning from Wutang Courtyard, but also unexpectedly discovered that the team mainly composed of Westerners was also coming from the direction of the harem. After the three parties met, they naturally exchanged information first. First, Ning Meng took out the page of the rulebook and showed the two new rules of last night and this day. The wedding dress flew into the Yuhua Palace, and the princess who got the phoenix crown was happy. Zhang Lin, whose whole body was still glowing with golden light, said in surprise, "The wedding dress flew into the Yuhua Palace? What does this mean? Where did the wedding dress come from?" Captain Kaozi glanced at the newly appeared Taxi team and asked thoughtfully, "Did you take action last night?" Painterly Weddy nodded and said, "Our team went straight to the outside of Yuhua Palace last night, and then the blood-stained wedding dress in our hands flew in automatically." "But you haven't seen the rulebook in Miss Ning's hand? How did you know to send the wedding dress there?" Han Kan also interrupted and asked, his tone full of confusion, "Do you have a similar rulebook?" Li Wei shook his head and said in a deep voice, "I have prophecy spells. This is the only way out I see." Kaozi said carefully, "In the weird domain, the predicted results are often what the weird wants you to know. I understand, but we have no other choice, right?" Levi sighed helplessly and then recounted what happened to him and others in the garment shop before, and finally said, "After we got the blood wedding dress, a terrible evil spirit suddenly appeared. Our 3 third-level wizards, well, that is, Dazire's Gangsha monks, the 3 of us joined forces, and we could only barely take its attack. Fortunately, the evil spirit seemed unable to leave the range of the store, so we were lucky to escape." After hearing this, Kaiozi said carefully, "I guess the previous sentence in the ruler wait until dawn in Yuhua Palace. If someone went there at that time, they would also get the information about the wedding dress." At this point, he glanced at Zhao Zhan and Feng Kang, and seeing that they had no self-awareness at all, he continued, "But because no one went to listen, the subsequent rules have changed accordingly. No wonder the contents of Miss Ning's rulebook can only be understood as time goes by. This strange domain is probably adjusting the rules at any time according to our actions." Everyone was silent for a while. After all, this was not good news. It meant that it was very likely to have wisdom, rather than just rules. Then, should we abide by the latest rule of whoever gets the phoenix coronet will please the princess and hand the phoenix coronet to the princess to win her favor? Zhang Lin looked at his captain and broke the silence. Kaozi did not answer, but turned his gaze to Moqiu and asked, "Master Remo, what do you think? Ghosts that come out at night and hide during the day eat people. Ghosts should not knock on the door in the middle of the night. Reach the palace in 6 days and 7 nights. Wait for dawn in Yuhua Palace. The phoenix crown fell on Wutang Courtyard at night. The wedding dress was lost in the day and the promise was fulfilled. The living shall not enter Huajio territory. The bride price is brought to the moon courtyard. The wedding dress flew into Yuhua Palace. The princess will be happy if she gets the phoenix crown." On the streets of Loyu City, Zhao Chen, riding a black tiger, recited the 10 rules so far, and said with a smile, My opinion is not to give. For a thing that intends to play with us to death, is its favor important? When it is playing with us, do we have to take the initiative to help it?" After listening to the information obtained by the two teams last night, Gong Yun asked curiously through the voice of the heart, "You knew that the root cause of the destruction of this kingdom was the one in Wutang Courtyard? Also, is the strange carrier really the lover of the little princess?" In her opinion, it must be that the mother of the little princess in the cold palace launched some terrible ritual before her death, causing the entire royal city to change, which attracted the Moyans engine to take action and completely wipe it out. But the problem is, she had previously guessed that the lover of the little princess ran out of the royal city after getting into trouble, so he survived, and then when he came back, he found that his lover and home were destroyed, and this became the carrier of the strange. But from the news from Wutang Courtyard, this seems a bit wrong. That person was arranged by the eldest princess, and he stabbed his lover. How could he have feelings for the little princess? Without extreme emotions, how could he attract weirdness? Who said that person's lover is the little princess? Zhao Chen asked with a smile. Gong Yun was stunned, and then realized something. He took a breath and said, that eldest princess is really not a human being. Did she let her admirer seduce her sister? Zhao Chen nodded indifferently and said, from the information I got, it is true. I have been being ridden by you. How come I didn't find out where you got the news? After Gong Yun complained in her heart, she suddenly remembered that Zhao Chen could hear it and quickly changed the subject. No strangers can enter Huajiao. We seem to have reached the street next to Huajiao Street. I wanted to make up for it on the weekend, but the author was sick. Oh, it's very uncomfortable, and I almost lost my full attendance. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.